Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, whatever time zone it is for you. Hello, I'm Kyle's McGiles, and we are returning with the live readings of ReZero.
Good morning, everyone. Good
afternoon, good evening, whatever time zone.
Mute. I'm so sorry. I'm so fucking stupid.
We're starting with Arc 1 of ReZero. Well, it's so good to see you all. I'm going to quickly say hi to you guys, then we're going to introduce everyone who's here at the moment, and then we're going to get started with the chapter. All right. Hello, Sings. Hello, Hyvern. It's so good to see you again. Sparks. Six. Hello. NY. Lol Trash. Waylead. Fugalville. Justic. Dragon Gus. A Bizarre JoJo fan. Oh my gosh, it's been so long. How are you? TQOZ. Kazu. Eli Ferretti. E Ferretti. How are ya? Spark. Storm. Lol Trash. Thon and Lore. Hello. We, of course, as always, when we're reading the chapters, we won't respond to chat as much, but we'll try to chat with you guys a bit more between chapters. We're going to start with the beginning, so we'll probably interact a bit more with you guys than we normally do as of late. Yay! Okay, let's bring over the cast. Hello, friends. You are now officially live, and let's introduce ourselves. Gold, we'll start off with you.
Hello, everybody. It's me, Gold. Yeah, I'm here to do the live readings and stuff today. We're doing Arc 1, not Chapter 1. Well, the prologue, actually, of Arc 1. Hope you guys enjoy. It's been a while since we've done this, so I'm glad to see everybody again, and I'm glad to be doing some more ReZero.
Yay!
Hello, I'm Kiki484, Kiki for short. I unfortunately can't stay for long, so I will stay as long as I can just for the reading, so can't wait for that to happen. It's gonna be great.
Yay! We got a duo in this section. Hi, I'm Kyles. I play Amelia. I'm gonna be so focused on managing the stream that I will probably be giving up Amelia from time to time, so don't worry, it's still your girl Amelia, but I might have to share. Wolfie Boy?
Hello, I'm Wolfie Boy. I play Subaru. You will hear me do British Subaru.
Yay. Vivi. Vivi, your turn.
Hi, I'm Vivi, friend of the show. Might do stuff in the future, but for now I'm just here to listen in.
Yay!
Now, do you want to go over why we're doing this? Huh?
Oh, yeah, probably. All right. Friends, it's been so long. This feels really great to be back with you guys. And actually doing a proper, chapter read that we can actually do consistently, not have to worry about schedules and stuff. So why are we doing Arc 1 in the first place? Thank you for asking, Gold. We're doing Arc 1 to help, mostly myself, get started again with the edits. Anytime it takes a little while for me to get audio in, I sometimes lose track of the schedule and lose track of things. But when I'm surrounded by my VAs and we're constantly working together, it's so much easier for me to focus in and actually get back to editing. I do have some announcements, but I'm going to save them for the end of stream. And because I also have to fill in my staff about that I haven't done yet. So stay tuned for some announcements at the very end. We're going to have a lot of community involvement coming back to bring everyone back in and close together. And we will be continuing Arc 5. Please understand, we are currently editing audio for Garfield and the narrator for 62. So that should be coming out at latest the end of June, but hopefully within the next 2 weeks. Yay!
Yay! Everybody clap!
Patchy patchy!
Yeah!
Yay!
Yay!
Kyle's
and
has
also,
a regular schedule, so she can do more things. Yay!
What?
Yes, go.
exciting!
Regular schedule! Let's go.
Yay, schedule!
Yeah!
Yeah, make sure to drum back everybody who's interested in our readings. I know you guys like to share it sometimes, and I know you guys send it to friends who are interested in ReZero. This is a good place to start, because before, you'd have to say, oh, here is the entire anime beforehand. If you want to start them here, you can, totally. Or if you're just somebody who just watched the anime and are interested in looking at, the chapters as they originally came out, this is a great way to do it as well. So I am excited for it, and I'm excited for you guys to all listen to it and listen along.
Absolutely. Yay! And hopefully we get more people that can access the web novels finally, too, because I know a lot of people have sent me messages over the past couple years saying that this is really helpful because they have, dyslexia or difficulties with reading English, or they're learning English and that sort of thing. So hopefully we can bring this forward for everyone. Yeah. Kiki, did you want to narrate this first chapter, and then when you have to leave, I'll just take over for you?
Sure. Let me see if I can get the link to the thingy.
Oh, yeah. It's in
You know,
Staff
I can
General
do some
chat.
narration too, by the way.
Yes, I think you're going to be doing most after
Yeah,
after this
sorry.
chapter.
Sounds good.
Okay.
And I'm-
So, my microphone's good. I don't know because I'm using my $20 headset right now.
You are? It sounds good.
You sound
what the
fine,
heck?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't
That
know if
sounds
it's my
great.
headset or my actual like recording mic. It's hard to tell.
Oh, fair. No, this one sounds great.
Oh, okay. I guess we're good then.
no, you're great.
Probably
All right, we're good.
the best headset mic I've ever had.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
All right, everyone.
All right, got it open.
Posted the link in the chat. Hopefully it works. This is from Witch Cult Translation, so you can follow along. All right, Kiki, take it away.
Alrighty. Prologue. Waste heat of the beginning.
This is really bad.
He felt the hard floor against his cheek and realized that he had collapsed onto his face. His strength was completely gone, and he had already lost sensation in his fingers. The heat from his core was so excruciating it made him want to tear his throat out.
Hot.
The moment he opened his mouth to scream, what spilled forth was no shriek. It was a clump of blood. He vomited up large quantities of his lifeblood as he coughed. Frothy blood started foaming up at the corners of his mouth as he gurgled. Within his dim field of view, the ground has been dyed red.
This is all my blood.
There was enough to soak his fallen body. Blood comprises about 8% of the human body, and it is said that losing about a third of that would be life-threatening. But it seemed to him that he'd already lost just about all of it. He had stopped vomiting blood, but the heat that felt as though it would incinerate him still persisted. He moved his hand towards his abdomen with great difficulty, and having felt an impossible sensation there, he understood.
My stomach's been torn open.
It was no wonder he felt so hot. It seemed his brain has confused pain for heat. He was almost torn in half. Only a bit of skin at his back held him together. In short, it seems that this was checkmate for him. The moment he realized this, his consciousness started fading. Even the heat which was making him writhe in agony had disappeared. Even the unpleasant feeling of blood and the sensation in the hand he'd used to feel his organs. It was all fading away along with his consciousness. All that was left was his body, which would not be able to accompany his soul. This body used the last of its disappearing consciousness to move just a little. It turned its head upward. Black shoes formed ripples in the pool of blood before his eyes. There was someone there, and that someone was most likely the one who killed him. Strangely, he didn't feel like looking at their face. This person was the one who took his life, and yet he still decided to simply remain a spectator to his own demise. He had no clue who they were, but right now, he didn't really care about that. He only wished for the girl's safety.
Baru?
He felt like he heard a voice like the chime of a bell. He was beyond the point where he could even differentiate his senses, so he probably just imagined it. Despite that, even supposing it wasn't real, he found it extremely comforting. So... A short scream, then the carpet of blood welcomed yet another person. She had fallen right next to him, exactly where his arm was. Her fair hand dropped powerlessly and intertwined with his. Probably just a coincidence. He felt her fingers move slightly. as if squeezing his hand.
Wait.
He forced his disappearing consciousness to return for a moment. The pain and heat, everything had faded away. It was a meaningless effort. Nothing but a loser wasting time. But even so,
I will definitely save you.
at that moment, Natsuki Subaru lost his life.
And that is the end of the prologue. I'm very sorry for Sierra.
She has the best time.
Yay!
That was great work, Kiki and Wolf. Yay!
Dude, every time Subaru spoke, I just got chills. Like, holy shit.
Damn, it's been so long. That felt so good. Oof. All right. I guess we could talk a little bit about. Oh, she's gonna cry.
We should do a chunk of chapters before we start talking.
Yeah. We ready for the next one?
Yeah. Who do you want? Do you want to translate it, Kiki, or do the narration?
Sure, I'll do another one.
Yeah, and then
And
then
after this, another person can do it.
Yep.
yeah, because they are so short. Holy cow. Yeah. All right. Let's see real quick. I think it's just Subaru and narrator. All right, Kiki, when you're ready.
Great. Arc 1, Chapter 1. Usual Rigid 10.
I think.
Oh. I don't know if that was my line or
just assume
Subaru's
these
line.
dashes are my internal monologue here.
Oh, okay.
I'm assuming too.
Then go ahead.
Oh, this is really bad.
Lost and penniless. Those few words were all he could think of. Well, penniless wasn't quite right. He did have his wallet in his pocket, and setting aside the fact that he had an abundance of small change and very few notes, it couldn't be denied that he had his assets on him. More than enough to go to the nearest mall to do some shopping and eat some lunch. Even so, he could only be called penniless.
Oh, looks like the currency around here is completely different after all.
Flipping the rare rated 10 yen coin he was holding, the youth sighed deeply. He was an unremarkable youth, bearing his short black hair and average stature. He had some masculinity which, combined with his cheap jersey, gave off the air of an athlete. His sharp eyes were his only noteworthy feature, and now even they dropped helplessly. The banality of his appearance was such that one could instantly lose him in a crowd. However, the gazes directed at him were those of wonder and incomprehension, as though they were looking at something strange. Obviously, there wasn't a single person sporting black hair or a jersey among those looking at him. Their hair varied extensively: blonde, white, brown, green, blue, and so on. Furthermore, their outfits were armor, dancers' clothes, monotone robes, and more which possessed a certain vibe. The youth could only cross his arms in comprehension as their brazen gazes washed over him.
So, basically, it's like that, huh?
Snapping his fingers, he pointed at those who were staring at him.
Seems I've been summoned to another world!
For his eyes was a carriage drawn by a massive lizard-like being. Natsuki Subaru was born in Heisei-era Japan's pressure-free education system. He had lived 17 years, and to describe his life would take 17 years in itself. Setting that aside, his present situation could simply be described as high school third-year shut-in. Or, in more detailed terms, a piece of trash who disregards everything, even his parents, to shut himself in his shell even when his entrance exam's right around the corner. There was no particular reason for his solitude. On typical weekdays, he would occasionally think,
Oh, getting up now will be a pain.
and that became an and that would be an impetus to cut school. With his absences steadily increasing before he realized that he'd become an exemplary shut-in who brought tears to his parents. He spent days in sloth, plunging ever deeper into the net with minimal communication.
The result being a summons to another world, huh? Oh, I don't really get it myself.
Reconfirming his surroundings yet again, he heaved his umpteenth sigh. He had moved from the street he was on, and was presently sitting in a somewhat dim alley. The ground was paved. A rough job compared to modern Japan, but it wasn't bad.
Supposing this is a parallel world fantasy, I guess this must be the standard medieval civilization. I don't see any machinery. Oh, and they build with stone and wood.
He thought back to the sights he'd seen on his way to the alley and organized the information in his head. He would frequently let his imagination run wild. As a result, he was more than prepared for his present situation. First, calmly analyzed that time's period's culture and its differences with Japan. Ascertain any differences in the laws of physics and possibly of contact with humanoid organisms. Those were his priorities.
Alright, let's do that. Oh my god. Alright, let's do this. I'm not imagining you guys, and I'm fairly certain about the level of civilization. It seems like my money won't be of any use, but I took the opportunity to speak to a shopkeeper, and we have no problem communicating.
Realizing he had been summoned, the first thing Subaru did was attempt to negotiate with a grocer? Having attempted to purchase the apples with his Japanese yen, he was promptly declined. It seemed that this world used gold, silver, and copper coins as its currency. The inherent value of currency in this world was easy to understand, certainly befitting a parallel world fantasy.
Well, I suppose there would be mixed metal fakes. Something like a 500 won coin would probably degrade though. Probably heavy to carry around.
He thought as another lizard-drawn carriage passed through the street. This produced a giant cloud of dust, and yet the townsfolk paid no mind, as though they were completely used to this.
Even so, they don't seem nearly as common as cars were. Oh, come to think of it, I haven't seen any dogs or cats around here.
The lizards drawing the carriages appeared considerably larger than horses. Their body mass seemed constant relative to their proportions, but it was certainly worrying to see reptiles of that size.
They're commonplace. Huh. Both lizards and humanoids?
Then the final piece he had to confirm, the unique look of this world's humans. They possessed very colorful hair, but one could easily obtain any hair color with dye. For a parallel world fantasy, that would be nothing extraordinary. Instead, Subaru focused on their animal ears. At a cursory glance, he spotted dog ears, cat ears, perhaps even bunny ears. He may have even caught the sight of a lizardman-like being. There were also those who looked no different from Subaru, which led him to conclude,
the genre is parallel world fantasy. The culture is that of your typical medieval civilization. Demi-humans are common, so in battle and adventure might be common as well. The animals show some minor changes, but they basically serve their functions. Oh, is that how it is?
To deduce that, Subaru exhaled a long breath that wasn't quite a sigh. Having spoken of the circumstances he ended up in, he knit his brows at this seemingly convenient development. If things proceeded according to his fantasies, he'd freely use his modern knowledge to obtain incredible power. However, this world was slightly different from what he'd planned for.
I'd run perfect simulations of the Sengoku era. If I ended up there, I'd have seized the country from Nobunaga.
When it came to parallel world fantasy, at best his knowledge amounted to gunpowder production. And even that was meaningless considering this world's technological level parallel world fantasy genre generally came with magic. If that were the case, it would probably make gunpowder little more than fireworks.
Well, there's also cliches where magic isn't the end-all be-all. If I ever get the opportunity to contribute to the advancement of science, I'll do my best to First my current problem.
No clue how or why he'd been summoned here. He clearly remembered what he was doing prior to the summoning. He had just gone out for the first time in a long while to buy some cup ramen at the convenience store and was about to return home. He didn't want to use his bicycle, so he went on foot. Midway, he looked up at the night sky and thought,
It's almost a full moon tonight, huh?
and then as he looked down and blinked, it was noon. Night to noon in an instant. He immediately realized something was off, but that was it. He calmed down now, but immediately after summoning, his panic was such that it would be told for generations to come.
Considering I being an only son have gone missing, those generations might not exist.
As he muttered this, he once again checked his belongings. In a parallel world fantasy, starting gear was even more important than he had imagined. He needed everything he had, however little. First, his cell phone, with a dying battery. His wallet, containing many video rental membership cards. The ramen he bought at the convenience store. Shoyu tonkotsu. Some snacks. Corn potage flavored. His beloved gray jersey, unwashed. Worn out sneakers, of 2 years. And more.
That's that, huh? Oh, why didn't I at least carry a pistol? What do I do now?
It seemed only his snacks would prove useful, and only to fill his belly.
Oh, the situation is hopeless. And of course I don't know the source. I don't have any memories of passing through a mirror or hopping in a pond. More importantly, where's the beauty summoned me?
The hair absence, by 2D standards, was an act of inconceivable negligence. To summon him and just leave him like that, it was as though he was simply thrown away. In truth, Subaru could no longer escape reality now. He had assessed his situation, and he can only hang his head in despair.
Ugh, give me a break already. What on earth am I supposed to do here?
He was already at his limit as he muttered complaints. He earnestly wanted to go back. Fantasy was best left in the realm of fantasy. It was fun to imagine arriving in another world to obtain incredible power, but to actually end up in such a situation, what could he really do?
For now, what's important is survival. But will my level 1 communication ability be enough?
Aside from his family, he only really spoke to store clerks. He lived his lifestyle for almost a year now, and had long forgotten how to navigate social interactions.
Even though I can type at speaking speed in online chats.
Subaru moved his fingers nervously as he contemplated his future in despair. However, his expression changed when he heard the sound of footsteps echoing through the alley. He looked up to see 3 men blocking the exit.
And that was chapter 1.
Pachi, pachi, pachi! You guys are
Hey.
fantastic.
Your
You did
narration
great.
has been really good these past 2 chapters, Kiki.
And you've been doing
Yeah.
great as well, Wolf.
Oh, thank you!
I realized
It's,
that
it's like you never left.
True, you guys picked it up so fast.
I'm big rusty. Haven't voiced Super in a while.
I think I flubbed a few words, but
Oh my-
hopefully the rest was good.
Yeah, it was great.
Especially because you've just been put on the spot. You're doing really well.
Thank you.
Yeah, everyone's doing.
It was fun insulting Subaru while narrating.
I noticed you were having fun.
Yeah.
I missed this. Welcome, Palazar.
Hello.
Hello.
You're just in time. Just in time. Welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself while you're here? And I called you out.
Sure. I'm Palizard, or Connor. I don't really mind either one. I do some extra voices here and there. I'm the resident student learning Japanese still. Helped out a little bit in the live stream we did for the Season 3 announcement for that. And hope to be doing some narrating later on.
Would you like to
Cool.
mention the character we talked about before?
Yes, I will also be taking over the role of Kiritaka, and I'm excited to get to that.
Pachi Pachi!
Thanks.
I think we're using you in the next few chapters.
Hey, let's go.
Welcome, Trendy.
Awesome.
Trezzy,
Howdy.
Oh my god, so many
howdy.
people are here now.
It's been a hot minute. You want to introduce
Everyone's
yourself
coming.
to chat?
Hi, I'm Trezzy. I do drawing sometimes, and I woke up like 30 minutes ago.
We're glad to have you here. We've missed you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Of course.
I miss you all as well.
Yay! I just want to say you guys also did great. You couldn't even hear the music I was playing for you guys because I can't figure out, was it Pancake now? Whatever the bot is to play music. So you guys did great capturing the energy without any music as well. I just wanted to let you know that.
Old G Whittaker's
You
face.
guys did.
I'm gonna smack. I got smacked in the face while he was acting, by the way.
I got too
was a
into it, I'm
casualty
sorry.
of war.
That's funny.
Oh man.
I have to do the body
Evil.
movements to get fully in character, and it just so happens she's next to me, so whenever I swing my arms about like a
Smack.
fucking twat, I smacked her in the
Smack.
face.
My face is gone. We've also satiated the beast. Hopefully she will not be partway
The
through.
beastie.
Hmm.
Subaru is so excited to be in another world that he inadvertently smacked Emilio. That was
Hey, I don't write the story, okay? It writes itself.
So-
true.
All right, for chapter 2, Gold, did you want to be the narrator?
Yeah, I'll narrate. Who are we going to have for the delinquents? Do you wanna...
Well, now we have more people, and I mean, there's 3, right?
There's 3, yeah. But the issue is they're not, labeled. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think either one person does them all and finds different voices for them, or like
We
the
could
the
go,
issue.
like, alternate. Maybe we could get to like Palizard and Trezzy if you guys want to do the 2. Go back and forth. So like, let's say Palizard does the first line, Trezzy does the second. You kind of like alternate like that.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Wait, for who?
Tom and Chitin can. Or whatever. The Three Stooges.
The delinquents.
Oh, the three
Yeah,
little
bandits.
thief people.
The thief people
Mhm.
from the first episode. Hey, Subaru, I'm gonna beat you up because you suck.
Yes. Yes, that is very accurate.
Those people exactly.
What you
Well
doing
done.
in the alleyway?
My alleyway. Yeah, you could do like the most snotty noises ever.
I wish I could do a British accent so I could make a stabbing joke.
Oh my. Oh damn! Did this other guy got isekai too?
True. Yeah.
Another British bloke.
Thank
Trezzy,
you.
do you want to get the first one for them then? And then
I
I'll
gotta
just
pull up
hop
the.
after
I
you.
gotta pull up the text real quick.
Oh, yeah, let me also link it
Yeah.
in our chat for you guys. You're
It's
on
in general staff chat.
We'll get the gospel
Yes.
ready for you.
Oh,
Gospel.
Connor out there already.
Also, I guess to head off.
The
I
Gospel
left
of
work
Rem.
things.
Goodbye, Kiki.
Goodbye.
Hi, Kiki. Thank you so much for the rating. It was lovely to see you.
It was nice seeing you guys. I'll be sure to jump into the stream.
I was listening in the car. You did great. Bye.
And come
Okay,
back next time
bye.
if you
Okay.
can.
Yeah, we love you.
Anyways, we're going to be starting chapter 2 in just a moment. We're just
Yes.
getting everybody sorted for anybody confused.
Yes, we are. And
Um,
chat, we will come back and do some discussions probably once we're done reading the chapters because, this.
That's usually how we did in the past, and I think it structures things better so everyone can flow
Yeah,
into.
usually it
things.
was like every chapter we'd stop, but since this is kind of old news,
Yeah,
we'll
you-
do like a handful
You
of
weren't
chapters.
lying about how short these
They're
chapters were.
fast, yeah.
Yeah, the Arc 5 chapters are like an actual novel
Yeah,
chapter length.
Yeah, like this feels like nothing because before I'd be going for like 40 minutes for one chapter.
Yeah.
Now it's like a nice 10-minute bite-sized fun time. I'm having a good time.
Before this,
Bro, this is like 2 pages in your average novel.
It is this equivalent in the actual light novel in front of me is a page and a half.
oh my god. Wolf, just before we started, was like, I could probably go for like 1 or 2 chapters, and I was like, no, you're probably gonna go for like 10-ish, and he's like, sorry, I didn't sign up for this, but now you understand.
I thought I was going for like 10 Arc 5 chapters. I was gonna cry.
Nope.
Yeah, 10 Arc 5 chapters is a bit much.
That's when everyone should call me a dictator and take me down.
I think I'd be crying out for help during the stream anyway. So
Sometimes you need to whip them into shape. Don't worry, I'm supporting you, Kyler.
I don't know. That sounds pretty greedy to me.
I'm just a greedy little gal.
Yeah, you gotta make sure that there's no sloth here.
Mm.
Des.
Also, just a quick hello to a few people who've come in since we haven't seen you in a while. Waleed, we said hi to Sparks. Vivi, of course, who's here. Stearman McMearman, hello. Matter, hello. Mickey Naz, hello. Spider Ace, Dipu, Agush, Avi, Connor. Oh gosh, I popped the mic, sorry.
That's just me.
Oh, it is you. Oh my gosh. Belly, too. Hello. Nihilist, it's good to see you. And of course, Eat Freddy again. I probably missed some people, but I just wanted to say hello. It's been a hot minute. We're glad to see you all back here. All right, we ready for chapter 2?
Ready
Yes,
as
I
I'll
am.
ever be. I've just been isekai'd.
Yeah, into the new world. From zero. All right, Gold, get us started.
All right. Arc 1, Chapter 2. Don't get carried away, said God. The men gazed at him with scorn and contempt as Subaru praised them. They appeared to be in their mid-20s. Their clothes were filthy, and it was as though their inner evil had manifested on their faces. They weren't subhuman, but they couldn't be called decent humans either.
Damn, a compulsory event.
Facing the grinning men, Subaru wiped his face and stood up in a panic. They were clearly bandits, and considering the state of the world, they might even take his life. Mission 1. Repel the bandits had begun. The clear condition was eliminating them, and the failure condition was probably his death. Subaru smacked his cheeks and ignored the chill running up his spine. He had to get serious. Hesitation could cost him his life. He at least had confidence in his decisiveness.
Furthermore, this is another world. Considering the typical pattern, I might be super strong here. Something like the gravity being a tenth of what it is, or... Come to think of it, my body feels light. Maybe I can win.
He's murmuring or something.
Maybe he doesn't get what's going on. Should we teach him?
Unlike Subaru, the men remained fairly calm. However, Subaru continued to face them without backing down.
Whoa there. You guys won't be calm for long. Let me warn you. Guys like me fantasize about this sort of thing all the time. I'll beat the crap out of you and turn you into EXP!
I have no clue what you're saying, but you're gonna die for mocking us.
That's my line!
With that declaration, Subaru launched his preemptive attack before they could react. He flew into one of them with a full-bodied right straight. He landed a direct hit on the leader's face with such force that his front teeth cut Subaru's hand. He'd hit someone for the first time, and it was much more painful than he expected. This is all he tried in his simulations, but it was the first time actually doing it. The man he hit fell to the ground and stopped moving. Driven by emotions, Subaru immediately lunged at another man who was still in shock.
Eat this! A high kick forged by afterbath stretches!
His foot drew an arc right into the man's temple and slammed him into the wall. Having knocked a second person out, Subaru started to believe he was invincible due to his unexpectedly confident performance.
Looks like this world is set to raise my power after all. With all this adrenaline, I can definitely win!
Filled with courage, Subaru turned to the last man as he prepared to take him out. However, the glint of the knife in his hand caused Subaru to prostrate himself on the spot.
I'm sorry! It was not my fault! Please forgive me! Spare!
He surrendered on his knees, the greatest and lowest representation of Japanese spirit. His earlier excitement had completely disappeared. Subaru felt his blood run cold as he tried his very best to beg for mercy with his head on the ground. After all, he had no chance to get his blade. If he were cut, he'd be finished. Skill didn't matter when it came to a knife-wielding opponent. He then realized the two who were supposed to be down were getting back up. They nursed their bleeding noses and shook their heads dizzily, but otherwise seemed fine.
Huh? How come my peerless attacks failed? Where's the power I'm supposed to have?
What sort of crap are you spouting? How dare you do that to us?
They stomped his head into the ground, causing his forehead to bleed as it scraped against the road. Subaru desperately curled up as they continued to pile on blow after blow.
This is bad. It hurts like hell. I might actually die for real.
They showed no mercy whatsoever, and unlike his old world where there was no guarantee they'd spare his life, there was a strong possibility that he'd be tortured to death like this. Perhaps he should have fought, prepared to die an honorable death. But that was no longer a possibility considering his injuries. Even so, he couldn't just die like that.
Don't move, fool.
Ow! 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 Hurts! Ow!
The moment he tried to get up, they crushed his hands underfoot, and he could only scream in agony. The man turned red with rage and sent spit flying as he yelled. He then held the knife in an underhand grip.
We'll kill you and take everything you have. And that's what you get for messing with us.
If it's valuables you're after, it's useless. You see, I'm completely broke.
Your strange clothes and shoes will do then. We'll turn you into giant rat feed.
Ah! Oh, that's
There's rats in this world too. Sounds like I'm a bottom tier monster.
His mind started drifting in an attempt to escape reality as he looked at the knife, which could simply tear him at any moment. He wasn't seeing any lights, nor did the world slow down. His life would simply end just like that.
Hey, move, move, move! You're in my way.
An exasperated voice rang out as someone ran into the alley. The startled men looked up at the intruder, and Subaru attempted to do so as well, though he couldn't move. The beautiful girl crossed his field of view. Her frame was small, and she possessed shoulder-length blonde hair which fluttered in the wind. Her eyes suggested a strong will, and her fang-like canines protruded mischievously. She looked rather cheeky, but it could be said that she was cute considering her age. The shabbily dressed girl just came across the scene of a genuine mugging. The seemingly deliberate timing caused hope to well up within Subaru. Ah, this was it. The development he was waiting for. Following the typical pattern, this kind girl would gallantly save Subaru who was on the verge of death, and then...
Man, this is crazy. But I'm busy. Gotta get out of here. Live strong.
What? Seriously?
However, that fleeting hope was crushed. Their eyes met momentarily, and she raised her hand apologetically as she continued to run past them into what seemed to be a dead end. She then proceeded to leap off a leaning board and rapidly disappeared up the wall. With the girl gone, the alley naturally went silent. She'd gone by like a typhoon, leaving them dumbfounded, but Subaru's circumstances hadn't changed one bit.
Now the mood's been lightened, I don't suppose you might let me go?
On the contrary, we're even angrier. You're not gonna die a peaceful death, you know.
The man with the knife looked serious. Subaru realized that he was finished for sure this time. His hands were still trapped under their heels. It was too late to attempt to get up. Ultimately, despair conquered his heart.
It's over? Just like that? In a place like this? It's true I haven't lived very virtuously. Even so, a death like this is just too cruel. If I were to ask what I did, the reply would be that I did nothing at all. A completely idle demise.
Pain. Wasn't it? There was something else causing him to tear up. It wasn't something like the fear of the end. He just couldn't bear having lived such an empty, meaningless life.
That's enough, villains.
A clear voice rang through the alley, overpowering the noise of violence, the men's vulgar jeers, and even Subaru's own ragged breaths.
Can I just say, Palazar and Trezzy, you guys fucking absolutely kicked it out the ballpark with the thugs.
You
I was
ate
enjoying
that.
it.
That was
Thank
so
you.
good. Gold, great narration as well. Oh, it's good to be back, motherfuckers. Let's go. Let's go.
Oh hell yeah! I have missed playing the comedy of side of Subaru so much. It is so much fun being an absolute idiot.
You guys did amazing, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've had to be serious borderline superhero super for like the past, what,
Yeah,
30
yeah.
chapters?
Yeah. I'm ready to be an idiot for a bit. Until I get murdered. Again.
As always.
As always, we always come back to it.
Are you guys ready for the next chapter?
I'm always
Yeah.
ready.
Let's go.
I can do this reading as well because they still need to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we've been trained by Arc 5. This is nothing.
Yeah,
Maybe
stamina.
at any point in time you want to jump in and be a character, you let me know. We
Got it,
Amelia
Captain.
and Felt for grabs, and if ever you want to do narrating too, we could switch you out with gold here and there. So just
Puck should be showing up this chapter too, right?
Puck, good!
Also, one more thing I'd like to say is, I won't say here in case some people watching don't know, but the way you made Felt sound similar to another character was so smart and perfect. I don't know if you did that on purpose.
Nope, I just
Oh,
kind
true.
of pulled her out of my asshole.
That's funny.
But low key, that was amazing. You did a great job because that literally
All cheeky brats sound the same.
Yeah.
Dude.
Hey, hey.
I know, but literally the same sort of voice. It was perfect.
That's funny.
Let's go, let's go. Alright, well, let's get started on chapter 3. If Puck does appear in this one, if anybody wants to take him, they're welcome to. I also have played him in the past, but I'm also super up for anyone being Puck good.
And if
Vivi
nobody
should
else
do
wants
it.
to, I can be Crackhead Puck.
No, we
I
don't.
should do it.
Yeah, Vivi.
Yeah, Vivi.
Why not?
You want to be Puck?
Please.
Only if you're...
Fits you well.
You're my Spewit.
Yeah.
My spirit animal.
Or you could also try Amelia and I could be Puck.
I am not trying Amelia. You're crazy.
Would you be ready to try Puck?
I don't know.
You don't know? That I could do it too.
That's all
I
right.
can do it.
No pressure, you don't have to. But if you want to, you're more than welcome.
You can also wait.
Yeah, I'll wait. I'll wait.
One day you'll get excited and hyped and ready. The sleep bean. Alright. Palazar, Trezzy, you guys are ready for your roles, which you guys are amazing in, by the way.
Yeah, you guys are absolutely killing it.
Yeah, we're good. I'm good.
Me when I've literally never voice acted before.
Fucking suits
You
well,
were
my
getting
guy.
you were getting into character. It was so funny.
It was good, yeah.
I just do funny voices sometimes.
Just imagine you're really wanting to lick the knife that you're holding.
Yeah.
And you'll get the character down.
I can't do a British accent!
Let's go.
You may not be able to love knives like the British do, but it'll manage.
I'll mess you up, yeah.
Fuck you up.
I'll chef you up.
I'll shank you up, mate.
Alright.
Alright.
I mean, if he was like holding a gun, I'd just be like, "Howdy, y'all.
Howdy.
Now, what are you doing here in this gosh darn alleyway here? Give me all your belongings."
It's certainly a take.
It's certainly a take. It certainly do be. We ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Alright.
On
take
with
it
the chapter.
away. Oh, you need the
Or-
chapter?
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, wait.
yes,
Oh, wait.
I suppose, yeah.
I forgot. I could just go to the next. I haven't done anything with this in like 2 years, okay?
All right.
See, I'm just gonna find a good song as well.
Let me know when you're ready.
Alright. We're ready. Go ahead.
Arc 1, Chapter 3. First Encounter with Magic. Time itself stopped, a phrase reserved for moments like this. At the entrance to the alley stood a single girl. She was a beautiful girl. She had tied up her long silver hair which reached her hips. Her piercing gaze was brimming with intelligence. Her soft features were both seductive and youthful, and she exuded an air of nobility that was dangerously charming. She stood about 160 centimeters tall. Her royal blue toned garments weren't particularly flashy, and yet their simplicity emphasized her presence even further. The one conspicuous feature was the emblem on her coat, a bird resembling a hawk. Even its magnificence was nothing more than a supplement to her sublime beauty.
I won't let you run amok like that. Stop at once.
She spoke once again, her voice so exciting it could send tremors through one's body. Her voice was like a silver bell. It was pleasant to the ears, and her speech held such power it could shake one's heart. Subaru was overwhelmed, to the extent that he completely forgot his predicament. He could only think of her. The bandits were no different. Faced with her animosity, their earlier vigor vanished. Even the man holding the knife turned pale as they retreated into the alley.
Please wait. We don't really want to get it, but we'll let him go. So please forgive us.
It's good to see you're so gracious. It's not too late, so return what you stole.
It was our bad? What we stole?
Please, it's really important. I'd let go of anything else, but not that. If you return it now, I'll spare your lives.
Though her words were only that of an entreaty, the last few were certainly filled with anger. Her gaze was sharp, and the hand she'd extended as though reaching out was empty. However, there was something hard to put into words gathering in her palm, something everyone there could feel.
Wait, perhaps it's been some kind of mistake?
What?
What?
They point to Subaru, who was still under their boots.
You're not here to save this guy,
right?
right?
What strange clothes he's wearing. Perhaps there's been some internal strife among you? I can't say I approve of you ganging up on him like that. But if you were to ask whether or not I have any sort of connection to him, I'd have to say I don't.
Perhaps thinking they were trying to distract her, her tone was one of irritation. Seeming flustered by this, the men started talking in a hurry.
Wait. If you don't want this guy, we have nothing to do with each other. About whatever was stolen from you, it's probably that girl from earlier.
Right, that girl from earlier. She ran up the wall onto the roof.
Yeah, over there. She's probably like 3 streets away by now.
As they gave their rapid-fire explanations, her eyes met Subaru's. Her eyes seemed to ask as if they were telling the truth, and Subaru nodded instinctively, unable to lie. Having seen this, the girl reluctantly nodded, understanding.
It looks like you weren't lying. So, she went that way? I'll have to hurry.
She turned her back on them, prepared to leave. The men were blatantly relieved, and Subaru cursed his own foolishness for getting wrapped up in this atmosphere and squandering his only chance. However...
Be that as it may, I can't overlook what's going on here.
She turned around with her palm facing them, and aimed the rock in her palm at the stock-still man as she fired. Its speed would fit right in the Major League, and its course was that of a beanball. The sound of a regulation ball striking flat flesh rang out thrice, and the men were blown away as they screamed in pain.
Magic.
The word most suited to explain this phenomenon immediately spilled out of his mouth. He didn't hear her chant or anything, but that ice just now was definitely formed in and fired from her palm. Having seen this actually occur before him, he realized something.
This isn't nearly as fantastic as I thought. It feels disappointingly real.
He'd imagined light scattering around or energy flowing wildly, but in reality, it was just some lumps of ice rapidly coming into existence and disappearing just as quickly. There wasn't even the slightest hint of atmosphere to it.
You really gone and done it now.
Setting aside Subaru's impressions, the men who had been hit by that disappointingly real attack had sustained serious damage. 2 of them could barely keep their footing steady as they stood back up, and the third may have been hit in a bad spot because he was out cold. Despite their bleeding, the 2 who were still standing appeared ready to fight, even as the man beside the guy with a knife was holding an object resembling to a rastinata as he prepared for a battle.
I don't give a damn whether you're a mage or whatever. The 2 of us together are going to kill you. You think you can win against both of us?
The man with the knife raised his voice in anger as he pressed down on his broken nose with the other hand. But the girl showed no signs of faltering.
I suppose 2-on-1 might be unfair. Then 2-on-2 should be okay, right?
Yet another voice filled the alley, androgynous and high-pitched, as though speaking for the girl. Subaru started looking around in surprise, and the men shared his reaction. They couldn't find anyone who might have spoken those words, not at the entrance, and of course not within the alley. The 3 of them were confused, bewildered, and as if to show off, the girl held out her hand. Her palm faced upwards, and it floated above her white fingertips.
It's kind of embarrassing to be looked at like that.
it said as it bashfully groomed its face. It being a small cat small enough to fit in a palm, standing upright. Its coat was gray and its ears were floppy. The Subaru looked very much like an American Shorthair. Well, setting aside its pink nose and the length of its tail, the sight of this bizarre, cat-like being caused the man with the knife to tremble as he screamed.
Really?
Sorry, it didn't go through. A spirit user?
Correct. If you withdraw right now, I won't pursue you. Think fast. I don't have time for this.
The men clicked their tongues at her words and started to carry their fallen friend out of the alley. As they passed by Subaru and approached the exit, they glanced back at the girl and...
Just you wait, you damn brat. You best be careful the next time you decide to wander around here.
If you lay a finger on her, you'll be tormented until the end of time. You'll be in the afterlife well before that, though.
They desperately tried to make threats, but the reply was dismissive in tone, although its contents were rather severe. The cat and her pawn behaved rather frivolously, but their faces turned paler than ever before as they silently fled out of the alley. Now that they were gone, only Subaru remained before her.
Don't move.
Forgetting the pain coursing through him, Subaru had tried to get up to thank her, but she stopped him in his tracks, her ice-cold voice devoid of any sentiment. Her eyes were filled with caution. Even having understood Subaru wasn't with them, she clearly didn't think of him as a good person. Despite this, he was enthralled by the beauty of her amethyst eyes. He wasn't used to dealing with beautiful women, so that alone caused him to turn red and avert his eyes. Seeing this, the girl smiled boldly as she maintained her cautious gaze.
Your guilty conscience made you avert your eyes. Looks like my judgment was spot on. I wonder. I didn't sense malice whatsoever. That was probably just an instinctive male reaction. You be quiet, Puck. You probably know who stole my insignia, right?
The girl silenced the cat as she tossed the question Subaru's way. She seemed rather proud of herself, but...
Sorry to disappoint, but I have no clue.
No way.
And her prideful front crumbled, allowing her usual expression to come through for a moment. Her imposing attitude had also vanished as she turned to the cat in her palm in panic.
What now? Do we really just waste our time? You're wasting time as we speak.
You're wasting time as we speak. You really should hurry. The culprit definitely has the divine protection of Wind Casino Fast.
No, that was definitely Buck.
Oh, that was definitely Buck. You were right.
You're wasting time as we speak. You really should hurry. The culprit definitely has the divine protection of wind, considering how fast they ran. Why are you treating it like someone else's problem? You were the one who told me to stay out of it, though. Besides, what are you going to do about this guy?
Subaru smiled bitterly when he once again became the topic of conversation. The girl seemed as though she just now realized that he was still there. Subaru put on a brave face for her and stood up.
You've done enough. You're in a hurry, right? You'd better get going. I'll help you out if you so desire. How about it?
He'd planned to say this while his fingers combed through his hair and his teeth sparkled. However...
Huh?
It's Subaru.
Yeah, super.
Oh no, this is Puck.
What?
Yeah, this is Puck. Talking to Subaru.
Oh. You better not try to stay... too late.
Oh, you're right.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
His head felt heavy and his body was wobbly. He tried to support himself against a wall, but his hand only grasped air. In the end, he had a reunion with the ground as he was just recently lying on. He fell completely undefended right onto his nose, the sharp pain making his consciousness drift.
Well, what now? Well, it's not like we know him. He won't die, so let's leave him be.
As his consciousness faded away, he could make out bits of their conversation. This was parallel world fantasy, all right. harsh even when it came to kindness. He was going to be abandoned in some alley. A negative viewpoint. Well, he's about to die, so merely being alive was a blessing in and of itself. A positive viewpoint. These half-hearted thoughts floated across his mind as his consciousness slowly...
Really? Really?
On the verge of losing consciousness, he caught sight of the girl turning around, her face red.
I definitely won't stick around to help him.
So cute. Even when she's angry. Ah, a true parallel world fantasy.
Those were his last thoughts before he blacked out.
Pachi pachi.
Pachi pachi. So before the next chapter readings, I will actually go ahead and put the names.
Yeah, it's alright.
That was really good, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mic peaked the first time I screamed. I
Yeah,
think.
it happens.
And it
sometimes
just
people are yelling.
It just didn't come in.
But that
I
second-
screamed very loudly the first time.
That second one was so worth it, though. I like these readings better, you know? I feel like we have more time to just be goobers, and we actually get the lines out. I like that. I like it.
Yeah, I know, right? We actually do get lines up.
How are we feeling? Do we want more chapters?
Yeah, what would you guys say, Chad? Do you want some more chapters?
Because we've only been streaming for, what, like an hour?
An hour.
Is
Yeah.
that? Yeah. We can switch up narrators, too, if
Yeah,
you'd
sure.
like. Give you a break.
I mean,
I think...
I can keep going, but yeah.
I'll narrate a chapter.
Yeah, sweet. Because I think the gaggle of bad boys are gone for a couple chapters.
Yeah, we don't see them for about like what, 5 arcs.
Well, no, I think it's
Oh, the way
halfway
after.
through this
Yeah,
arc before they show
I
up again.
forgot, okay? I haven't watched ReZero in like 3 years.
They come back in like a couple chapters after we for the first time.
After we do a little
I can play Puck if you need me to play Puck, by the way.
Up to you, Goal. It'll probably distinguish it a bit more.
That'd be
Yeah,
pretty
it's a
fun.
good idea.
Yeah. Because otherwise,
I
it's
wish
like
I-
me versus me.
Me versus
I wish
you.
I had Nitro because like I have the sound in a soundboard in another server. I could have played it right there.
I could do. Oh, but that one is it gonna get hit? It sometimes
Yeah,
does. We'll
it
use the
does.
Call of the Gigic. I'll play it when that happens.
The call of the kicker.
That one works really. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Oh, I just have to download it.
It's also
One
very
momentum.
cursed.
It's so
It's just
cursed,
like-
and I love it.
Subaru died. Vine boom.
Boom. Giga, please, just come be a voice actor. All right. Call of the Gig. I spelled his name wrong.
Damn.
Damn. ReZero. That always pops up. How's everyone doing? Are you guys having fun?
Are you talking to us or the chat?
You guys, and then chat.
I'm having fun.
I'm having a
For
great
sure.
time, you know.
Everyone's ears are gonna be bursted. Oh.
Thing chilling.
There it is. We're perfect. We're goated. We got it.
Hey yo.
What the fuck does Call of the Witch have to be?
Or
Fucking
peak content on YouTube.
peak.
To be fair, the Call of the Witch is like one of the most iconic sounds in anime.
Ooh. Save. Okay, we're gonna pull that up real quick.
It's some fucky stuff is about to happen. Oh no.
Call of the Gig.
Oh, weird. Tabe didn't put the character names even in the original Japanese version either. It's all just
Yeah,
left
what the
vague.
heck?
Sounds like a to pay moment.
Oh, invalid emoji. Cry.
It's been almost 10 years since ReZero came out, right? No, I think
It's been 10 years,
It's been,
like
oh, yeah,
more.
2012, right?
Why did you have to say that?
There we go. It's loaded.
The Call of Gigik.
I tried to do a Satella Aishiteru for an hour, and I could get past a minute and a half. Aishiteru.
You tried to do it for an hour?
Yeah, being a VTuber, you really sell yourself out, you know?
So wait, was this on stream or was this like an uploaded video?
On stream, yeah.
I was
She
on
tried.
stream. I might
Oh
upload the
god,
video
why would you
and
do
just
that
keep
to
it.
yourself?
Why do I do anything to myself?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Wolf, why does she do that to herself?
I don't know.
I can't.
I didn't.
Only she knows.
I didn't tell her to do it. She just did it.
Do it for the vine.
No. It don't exist no more.
That's a wonderful mindset to have. Do it for the vibe!
I ain't gonna do it. The mics for the thugs are incredibly loud. Okay, thank you. I'll fix this. They're just very good at projecting. What can I say?
All I spend my days doing.
There we go.
All right, who wants to do the narration for this chapter?
I believe it's Trezzy this time.
Alright, yeah, I gotta go to the El chapter.
Gold is Puck. Everyone following along, we are on chapter 3 of the Witch Cult translation, or sorry, chapter 4. I will link it right now for you, just so it's easier to click on. Do it for the plot. The plot.
Are you here for the plot or the plot?
Or the bitches. Or are you here for Amelia's silver bell voice? Take
Get
a
used
shot
to
of
that
it.
simile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm here for Wolf's Subaru.
Oh.
Because it's just peak voice acting.
Definitely the best Subaru in the last several years.
In the
Hashtag
last
Subaru.
like over a decade.
Hey,
You guys
yo.
flatter me. No. Ah.
It's so good. I told you.
You literally can't deny of the last few years, though. You're the only one of the last few years.
I don't know the names of
Heyo.
the other voice actors, so I can't I can't say anything.
Hashtag my Subaru.
Hey.
Wolf is my
Just
truth,
saying.
my
If they don't-
Subaru.
If they don't cast me as Liliana in the Arc 5 dub, I'm gonna riot.
Gonna fucking riot. I will riot if they do cast you.
I'm not.
Your
not.
Subaru.
You'll riot if they do.
Your Liliana makes you want to throw myself off the balcony.
I'm not.
Are you ready for 3 chapters in a row of Liliana?
Oh yeah. I was. This was the thing I was born for. You don't
I was
understand.
You won't be able to talk for a week.
He's been mentally preparing himself for a year.
I'm gonna be
now.
honest.
Mentally preparing
I'm-
myself for
the
recording.
the reason it's one of the major reasons I pushed for pre-recording was just so I didn't have to mind break on live stream. Because I'm not gonna lie, you would hear me screeching by the end. I'd be like, ah!
Yeah, it'd be kind of impossible.
It just turns into like voice cracks, just from your just destroyed voice.
Alexa, play Numb.
I become so.
All right, you guys ready for the next chapter?
Ready?
Ready.
Aye, Captain.
Aye, Captain.
To Subaru, the feeling of waking up was rather similar to the sensation of raising his head out of water. Rays of sunshine assailed his pupils the moment his eyelids parted, causing him to grimace as he rubbed his eyes. He was rather good at waking up. Once his eyes opened, his consciousness would soon follow.
Ah, you're awake?
A voice directly overhead. As Subaru turned to face it, his body still on the ground, he realized that his head was resting on something rather soft.
Don't try to move just yet. Your head was hurt, so it's not safe.
The voice worrying him was gentle, and the sensation under his head was one of supreme bliss. Subaru thought back to what had happened before he had lost consciousness, and concluded that he was currently experiencing one of the greatest boons a man could receive.
Holy crap! That beauty's giving me a lap pillow!
Taking advantage of this divine blessing, Subaru started to toss and turn, enjoying the feel of her thighs to his heart's content. His circular motions brought delightful sensation to his cheeks, his face wrapped in a fluffy...
Man, pretty girls are a lot hairier. than I thought? Like hell!
Glad to see you're up.
Subaru played the straight man as he looked up, now fully lucid. He could properly see what was before him. In his inverted line of sight was the face of an absurdly huge cat. Its expression was excessively ingratiating as it formed what seemed to be a smile.
I decided to be considerate and offer you some comfort until you woke up.
First of all, quit doing that terrible falsetto.
Having ended up in the absurd situation of receiving a lap pillow from a human-sized cat, that was Subaru's only request. He then went back to enjoying the furry sensation since it was so generously provided.
Fluffy. So fluffy. Just what in the world have you gone and created, God?
Oh dear, it seems well worth it for me to change size if it brings you that much joy, right?
The giant cat shyly scratched his head and winked as if seeking agreement. In the direction of its gaze, at the entrance to the alley, a girl stood with her arms crossed in displeasure. She was the girl who had been burned into his eyes and memory before he lost consciousness.
So, basically, you're that tiny kitty from before?
Its freely changing sizes makes it great for transport. It also brightens your day with humorous chit-chat. A cat for everyone. Goes great with your lifestyle. For more details, please contact the Spirit Association.
It nimbly snapped its fingers and started a sales pitch. While they weren't really relevant, the contents weren't really relevant, but Subaru understood that was probably how it acted.
So, you ended up staying here until I woke up?
Don't get it twisted. I had some questions for you, so I had no choice but to stay. If that weren't the case, I would have just left you here. Definitely. Just so we're clear on that.
When it was emphasized that much, even Subaru couldn't really say much in response. She spoke in a fierce tone, as if pressing him. Considering his level 1 communication ability that was even worse when it came to the opposite sex, all Subaru can do was nod.
And that goes for me healing you and letting you enjoy Puck's lap, too. All of it was for my own benefit, so you'll have to repay me now.
You're putting on quite the act. But ultimately, it wraps around to being a regular request, doesn't it?
What goes around comes around, taken to the extreme, but in response to his answer, the girl shook her head with a stern expression.
That's not it. I'm making a demand here. Now, you probably know who stole my insignia, right?
Subaru nervously accepted her condition, as she, for some reason, lowered her voice and asked him this. Subaru couldn't help but tilt his head at this. He had a really strong feeling that he'd heard this exact question before he lost consciousness.
Did I hit my head really hard while I was very briefly unconscious?
You were at least out for 5 minutes, but as far as I know, nothing of that sort happened.
Then, could it be deja vu? Maybe I've awakened some hidden power that lets me experience the immediate future?
Perhaps he should call his ability.
Come back yesterday!
Still you, Subaru.
I was just shut in!
Quit ignoring me and calm down already. Would you? Now, answer me.
I have to say, I don't really know.
The so-called insignia was probably something like those badges people like lawyers, prosecutors, members of the defense force, etc. had to prove their identity. Unfortunately, Subaru had no memory whatsoever of seeing such a thing in the hour or so he was here. Back home, he had a veritable amount of toy badges that he collected as a child, but he didn't know how to return there, and he'd probably get smashed by her ice if he tried offering her one. Consequently, his answers couldn't possibly meet her expectations, but the girl simply nodded, not disappointed in the slightest.
I see. Then that's that then. but I did learn that you don't know anything. So that shall suffice as compensation for healing you.
Her logic regarding her total loss would have shocked the sleaziest swindler, leaving a dumbfounded Subaru behind. She loudly clapped her hands together as if she'd completely gotten over it.
I'll be going then. Sorry, but I'm in a hurry. Your injuries are almost gone, and those guys probably won't come back after you again, considering how scared they were. But wandering into deserted alleyways alone at a time like this is basically suicide. I'm not worried or anything. I'm just warning you. I won't have a reason to save you if this happens again, so you better not expect anything.
Her mouth moved rapidly as she spoke at length, and perhaps interpreting Subaru's silence as agreement, she seemed satisfied as she turned away. Her long silver hair swayed with her movements, and even in that gloomy alley, it had a fairy tale-like luster to it. Subaru's support suddenly disappeared as he hastily stopped his fall. When he turned around, the cat's giant body was nowhere to be found, having returned to the palm-sized form he'd originally seen. Floating through the air like a balloon, it turned towards the girl.
Sorry about that. She just can't be upfront about such things, this daughter of mine. Don't think her strange for it.
Saying this in a jovial tone, the cat gently landed on her shoulder. She patted its back as if to confirm this, after which it disappeared into her hair. Subaru's eyes followed her dashing form as she walked away, and he thought intently about what the cat had said to him.
The real motivation behind her words and actions.
It seemed she had been robbed of something that's really important to her, and she was pursuing the culprit. She then saw a stranger being assaulted and stopped to help despite this. On top of that, she even wasted her time healing him and watched over him until he woke up, and then repeated her earlier question and deemed that sufficient compensation so she wouldn't feel indebted to her, or so he wouldn't feel indebted to her. It was far beyond the level you could say she wasn't upfront about things. It was the first time in his life he'd been seen by someone so absurdly considerate. From her perspective, there was absolutely nothing to gain from interacting with him. On top of losing her target, she spent precious time healing him. Considering this, it could be said that she'd actually sustained a great loss here. She had every right to criticize him, and he would accept all of it. But in the end, she didn't do that, nor did she ask for an apology. Why? According to her, it was because saving him was all part of her self-serving plan.
Living like that, you're going to lose everything.
He stood up with those words and patted his dirt-covered jersey. The filth made his well-used jersey stand out, but it had sustained no real damage, and most importantly, all the pain from his beating was completely gone. He rotated his shoulders and stretched his legs as he confirmed his condition, once again realizing just how absurd magic was, and also how abnormal the girl was, having gone this much for him and demanding next to nothing in return.
Hey, wait up!
As she looked around at the spot where the alley connected to the main street, a voice called out from behind her. Smoothing down her hair with her hand, she seemed annoyed as she turned around.
What? We've already said everything we needed to say, so we are no longer have anything to do with each other. We're merely strangers whose path intersected for a moment.
Don't say such heartrending things! And even if you intended to end things, I think it's far from over.
Her eyes were cold as she approached, as if clinging to her. Some part of him thought this scene was very much like a boy pursuing a girl who'd given him the cold shoulder, but he pressed on, spreading his arms to block her path.
That thing's important to you, right? Let me help you find it.
But you don't...
It's true that I haven't a clue as to the culprit's name, background, or fetishes, but I at least know what she looks like. A pretty girl with a snaggletooth and striking blonde hair. She was shorter than you, and flatter too. Maybe 2 or 3 years younger. But I was like, really?
It was a bad habit of his to become tense and speak at extreme speed when he was at its wit's end. A habit that was clearly on display at this very moment. Frankly, even he himself was repulsed by this.
There was too much unnecessary crap like chest and fetishes. and using words like pretty girl, and really? Just who am I supposed to be? I gave up on English in my first year of middle school.
So, how on earth could he just litter his speech with English? It seemed as though Subaru was about to embark on a journey of self-reflection, full of strain and regret. His back was soaked with cold sweat, his arms were in a dreadful state due to the sweat from his palms and armpits. He was besieged by heart palpitations, breathlessness, dizziness, anemia, nasal congestion, and migraines as he stood there. He'd driven himself into a corner, and what saved him was
You're a strange guy.
the girl's voice, her finger on her lip, as she slightly tilted her head, as though looking at some exotic animal. She stared at him as if appraising him, and then
Let me just say this. I can't offer you anything in return. I'm completely broke.
Spend the buck.
It was all stolen, you see.
Relax! I'm basically broke as well!
There's nothing reassuring about that, though.
consciously ignoring the intermittent interjections, Subaru vigorously struck his chest.
And I don't need a reward or anything. I just want to thank you.
I haven't done anything to deserve your thanks. You've already repaid me for the healing.
She remained stubborn to the very end. Her obstinate attitude made Subaru smile bitterly as he continued.
If so, I'm helping you for my own sake too. My objective is... yeah, that! I want to do some good deeds!
Good deeds?
That's right! If you do a whole load of them, you need to go to heaven when you die. It's basically my dream life. Lazing about all you want, living as self-indulgently as you please, and it's just like they're waiting for me. That's why you have to let me help you.
He didn't really understand what he was saying himself, but he said what he wanted to. He looked as though he'd just accomplished some great task, but the girl seemed rather pensive. However, the cat on her shoulder started poking her cheek with its paw.
I'm not sensing any malice. Wouldn't it be best to take him up on his offer? You don't have any leads, and you can hardly search the whole capital.
But
Your stubbornness is definitely cute, but it'd be foolish to lose sight of your objective because of it. I don't want to think of my own daughter as a fool.
The cat shrugged its shoulders as it provoked her, causing her to raise her eyebrow. The next several seconds were filled with strangely erotic ahs, mms, and buts. But in the end...
I really can't give you anything, you know.
Saying this, she took his outstretched hand.
Pachi pachi!
Wow, Arc 1 in the web novel is way more cursed than it is in the light novel.
Yeah, it's pretty
funny.
fucking cursed. What the hell?
I love it!
Yeah.
It's so fucking ridiculous.
Subaru's really, like, he's already cringe in the main story, but it's kind of an overdrive in Arc 1 and 2 here.
Yeah, these are thoughts
I was-
Subaru never has in the modern story. That's funny.
It's rather...
I was this close to going off script and just saying like the most funny jokes ever.
It's just very entertaining because I like for the anime in particular when they adapted like Arc 3, especially like the throne room scene and everything that came after in that episode with Subaru. It very much felt like compared to the light novel for me, they were really playing up like the way he acted and stuff. But it just seems they try, we'll use web novel Subaru for this moment instead.
Just make him a terrible human being.
Because oh my goodness.
Part of it does get lost in the translation and localization of it too, where like even here him saying like a pretty girl and chest
Yeah, he's saying it in English.
It's all in English, yeah.
Yeah.
Subaru's
meant to
a
make him
hip kid. He
seem
likes to
cool.
use that English lingo.
He's the kind of guy who in America would unironically use the word waifu in general conversation.
Yeah.
Cool. Average Discord user.
Average Discord user versus Chad Subaru.
So canon is the ReZero world is English?
Man, Subaru's trying to go to heaven with his good deeds. I
yeah.
wonder how that's gonna go.
It is pointed out that unlike a lot of the novels that he does read, that they are actually speaking Japanese.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
like, a
And-
somewhat modern version of it too.
Yeah, so when
Because
when Subaru's speaking English, it's literally a language the people there do not understand at all. And also, it's the reason why Amelia sounds like her dialect sounds a bit older to Subaru than the other characters, for plot reasons that you would know of.
Yep.
Okay.
And you know, it's very funny seeing how immediately, like how thirsty the writing is about Amelia. It's like,
Yeah.
she's beautiful.
Tapei wears his heart on his sleeve, okay?
He loves his bitch.
Yeah, I can
That's the
respect
reason why he
that.
wrote the book.
Because
Literally.
Amelia is based.
My favorite thing to think about that is Subaru is such a well-written protagonist, and then you think, man, he really was just made so Amelia could have a story.
Well, it's supposed to be like, oh, look at this loser, you know, you can't.
Oh, yeah, here's this just absolute degenerate here. Hey, so
idea
here's
is
pretty
like-
lady here. Yeah.
I know we've touched on this a bit before, Gold, previously on other streams, but
Yeah.
this really makes you think about how much of Tapei is in Subaru, right?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of it, but also I think it's also a tongue, or not necessarily tongue in cheek, but it's more like he knew that with the way that fantasy stories can be portrayed, right? It's like super easy to have this guy who's like, you know, a loser, but then he gets all this fame and wealth and whatnot. I think he really hated that like idea, like sort of initially, you know. It was just sort of like the reason why he wrote the story in the way that he did, and Subaru's the main character, is because he kind of wanted to subvert that, and also to kind of have the growth necessary to make somebody worthy of such a fantastical world with also like real people in it, you know. I think that's something.
Yeah, I can
interesting.
totally agree with that. You tend to find a lot, especially with like the very generic isekai. I tend to find that gets shilled out a lot. The main character either is not a character or is someone who is definitely not deserving of the things they obtain in this next world.
Yeah, and it's not even used as contrast for like a different message. It's more just like, you know, here it is. Here's all these like funny things. You know, I played an RPG once, so now I'm gonna, you know, have my main character, you know, be the leader of an RPG. You know, even though he has all these feelings and everybody else has all these feelings, but we kind of just sweep it under the rug to just tell the most visually striking story, or you know, the most sort of fantastical, you know, like self-serving story.
Yeah.
Which I like ReZero because it's not about that. Like even from the very beginning, you can tell by the way that like, even now, right? It's kind of more silly, but like, you can tell that there is almost like, knowing how Teppei writes, I can already see the threads of like, you're supposed to kind of already be like, okay, this guy's kind of annoying and weird, or like, you know, he has all these like perceptions, and you kind of see like the weakness, the cracks in his armor, you know.
Yeah.
Even though it's played of laughs right now, I can tell that there's more to that he was already thinking about or considering. Showing.
Yeah, literally his entire character has already been set up here. They even like gently mention his parents, which I thought they didn't do in the web novel, but it's more explicit in the light novel from what I remember. Like,
I'm also
mentioning
surprised
his
about a
parents.
lot of the foreshadowing already.
Yeah, me too. But I'm it's really cool to see it's consistent, you know, even though if it's slightly different and Subaru is a lot weirder.
Well, you know, if I'm like Teppei and this is my first, you know, few chapters of a new story, right? To hook people in, you kind of have to be provocative. Like, it's the reason why you showed the first part of, you know, somebody dying in the first story. It's supposed to make people sort of confused and mysterious, but then also you have to bring in like funny scenes or like engaging quippy dialogue, and like, here's, you know, a beautiful woman, you know, like, you know, it makes sense in that way too. It may not just be like, oh, this is something that he likes. It might just be like, how do I make people keep reading and like instantly, you know? Yeah, I think that's probably part of it as well.
Yeah, I think one thing I'm really enjoying as well, just re-experiencing all of it. It's one of those weird things to say because I've experienced Arc 1 in the light novel quite a bit and in the anime too. it's really refreshing to have a slightly different filter to it, if that makes any sense. Because normally Arc 1 is like quite boring.
It's a slog. Yeah,
Because
Arc 1 light novel is not a fun read.
Because it's one of those things, especially when you already have experienced the story of like, damn, I just wanted to get to the, you know, the good bits already. Screw the setup, right? But
it's also just, yeah, it's a difference in the publication of the stories and who's going to be either clicking on them or buying them from the shelf.
Yeah.
So if you're browsing like the basically equivalent of a fan fiction website,
Yeah.
then you're going to want the ones that have a stronger hook in the beginning, are interesting, and are different from everything else.
Light
you're reading.
novel is a lot more sanitized in that way, where it's like, this is a very official story that I've thought about and I'm refining because I don't like, you know, how this implies other things in the story, or I have to restructure things to make things work better in terms of like more cohesive narrative. At this point, it's just, I can tell that he's just like flowing out ideas, you know? It's like, here is sort of this and that and this and that, and he doesn't really know where it's going quite yet, but like, he has an idea, you know?
Wolf, do you remember if he even dies before the first half of the first volume is finished? Or is it after that?
It's either a chapter or two in the light novel where it's literally just him and Amelia exploring the entire city. I think it's about the halfway point, or maybe slightly before that, but there's quite a significant part of the book where it's not any of the like main like psychological thriller content. It's mainly just him and Amelia getting their bond, and I'm actually really happy that's the decision he went with, because it helps build up this really cool relationship between Amelia and Subaru that we never truly get to see the same again.
I just had a quick interjection, friends. There are 2 chapters till a good break-off point. You guys are welcome to still talk for a bit. We could take this time to like take a break, talk about things. But we could read chapter 5, Your Name, and the next chapter, because that's where it leads off from the prologue. So that way next week we can start off at a pretty good starting point. If you guys are down for that.
Yeah, I want to read one chapter.
Yeah, I'm more than down for that.
Yeah. If you
All right,
guys want to
give me
keep talking about the chapter, you're more than welcome to as well.
Give me 1 second. I just need to use the bathroom real quick.
Yeah, if everyone wants to take a couple minutes to get water, take a break, we are going to do that. I will take a break once the Wolfie Boy gets back. All right.
I can narrate the next one if
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see who's in this one. So we got Narrator Kun, we got Puck again, Amelia, Subaru. Let's see. I think that's it. Which works out perfectly. The chapter after, I think we have a few more. Because that's when we get to the
little girl and her family.
Felton Ron. Oh, right. This is the little girl in the family.
Yeah, they're gonna walk around. This entire chapter, I think, is just turned into a montage in the first episode.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh shit, this is a long one. We'll see how we're feeling after this chapter. If we're all a little too tired, we won't go on with the next. We'll save it for next week. But if we can plow through it, it's a good point to end at. Because that is the first episode of ReZero.
Let's go! We did the first episode!
Air horn.
Technically, that's only the first episode on Crunchyroll. Everywhere else, the first one goes, I think, up until it might be his 3rd death.
Oh, that's true. I forget that it's really fucking long.
Yeah.
No, it's like
Part 1A.
That's
part
like
1B.
isn't it like the director's cut or some shit?
Yeah.
Oh no,
That's
like
for
the
the rest of
special
them?
version.
Yeah, that's for the rest of the chapters for season 1. But
And
the
it's like-
premiere was always an hour long.
Huh.
Okay. I'm gonna switch to the ReZero lo-fi while we're chatting. Give it a little distinguish. Yeah, this has been so fun, friends. I'm so glad we're having a good time.
Yeah. You know what I was thinking about? For stuff like this, we should probably have somebody timestamp what chapters are which and stuff, and add little annotations. Because, you know, like there's little like bookmarking chapters you can do in the timeline of a YouTube video.
Can you do that while you're live?
I don't think so, but it would be nice.
I have a feeling
Excuse me, Andre may reprise his role.
Bless you.
Thank you. I know he enjoyed doing that before, so it's okay if he doesn't. But somebody usually does while they're watching. I've
You
never
could
had to do it
probably-
myself, which is fantastic. I really appreciate everyone's help.
You could probably shortcut it by making clips at each point that you stop, so that you have the timestamp for when it happened to go back to it later.
That is true. That is true. Okay, I'll try that out. Actually, let me see what happens when I press clip now. It is not the same as... Okay. It's pretty easy. Easy. Discard clip. Okay, good idea. I'm gonna do that from now on. Because I will... After each live, I'm gonna take the recordings and chop them up anyways and just make a playlist for people. Because I know a lot of people on Spotify just want chapters. And then the full stream can just stay here when people want it. Which will also be organized by book and then by chapter that we read. Oh, I guess, you know what? While we're waiting for the break to end, we're still going, everybody. We have potentially two,
Yep.
just one chapter guaranteed, to go on. So what I'm planning to do...
Let's do 2.
This one is longer, but I think we can do it. So what I am planning to do is, if you're on the Discord already, you may have seen that I'm holding mod applications. I haven't posted it yet. I will be, and I will make a video to promote all of this stuff that I'm saying right now. But for those of you who've come today and are listening, I just thought it'd be great to bring it up. So we're gonna have a lot of community involvement coming up. We're not gonna do voice acting auditions right now, but they will be coming up probably within the next month or two once we see how we're going with the live reads, of course, and then what we're doing with Arc 5. But the plan, as of right now, is to finish Arc 5 and go into Arc 6. Even if the new season comes out before we're done Arc 6, we will still be continuing, of course, unless Katakawa goes on their striking thing. That's what they like to do. But we do want to get to, like, Arc 7, Arc 8. So even if Season 3 is out by the time we're not done Arc 6, we can still catch up. We love planning for the future, so we're not going anywhere on that. Oh my god, sorry. Arc 1 to 4, we will be doing live. Arc 1 is a bit easier to go very, very fast, of course, so we'll probably plow through that, but then we can just slog through the rest all together. Just have our interactions again that everyone's missed.
Yeah.
It's been so nice seeing the chat. So,
Oh my goodness.
I mean,
can
we
you
have-
imagine if we're
we
in
have-
Arc 7?
We have 3
Yeah.
whole arcs after this of live content that we can do.
yeah, exactly. It's gonna be great. And they're huge. The announcement. So we're looking for mods for the Discord and for YouTube. One, this just really helps me out. So we're reorganizing the structure of Reverie as a whole. I am just the overall manager of all. We have been in talks about what to name our individual, not employees, but, you know, our original team leads. We're going to be going by a different name, like team, support, whatever. I'm gonna go through our VAs, see if anybody wants to help with like the basics of editing, organizing our voice actors, getting this done. So that's gonna be exclusively for our VAs and our artists and our just regular cast that we have already. It's gonna be open to them to join the project support. And then that way I have a bit more hands on deck and we can, you know, work through things that way. Hopefully it helps the flow of work. I'm taking over more of an aggressive stance on Reverie. I'm going to be taking over a lot of the production, a lot of setting up, and that leads me into the look for editors and stuff. So I'm going to be also having with the mod application, so moderators can apply for Discord and YouTube or just pick one or the other. I'll go through interview processes with you guys. I might pick a few of our team to help me out with those interviews. Literally all you need to do to be a mod is, one, be a respectable individual who will not abuse mod privileges by having access to the voice actors and the Reverie members, and basically just keeping an eye out for things on the Discord and YouTube. You do not have to be a full-time mod. You can do it casually. We'll talk about a schedule or routine. The big one is during the live streams. So now that we have them more consistently, it'll be easier to kind of plan around that. because that helps me when we're streaming, because I'm reading, organizing the music, keeping an eye on all the pings and everything, yada yada. So if I have moderators that are consistent on here, I don't have to worry about chat as much anymore. Next up, we're going to look for some editors as well. So I am going to be offering, after what happened with the demonetization, YouTube has basically said, hey, you do have pre-existing content. Yes, it is yours, but it relates back to holographic. Therefore, you're going to get struck every once in a while. There are certain things we're still investigating with that. If details come out, if evidence comes out, I will talk about it more. But for now, it just leads back to the fact that we have re-uploaded content. They said we can keep up the voice acting if we change it significantly. So I will be opening up the ability to have anybody who wants to try their hand at editing, anyone who loves editing already, you can sign up for a chapter between Arc 5 Chapter 1 all the way to 39. I may open up 40 to 42, we'll see. And you get to take a stab at visually editing the entire video. I also have somebody I'm talking to see if they want to isolate the audio. So I'll also look for people who are interested in isolating our voice actors' audio from the music that was on our live streams. That way we could change up the music, and that way the content or the original chapters becomes so different that we can market it as our own and we never get struck again. So that's what we're doing. There will be no time pressure. Nobody has to do it. If you decide you don't want to edit a chapter anymore, you can just abandon it. It's a way to talk with me as well. So I'll be working with you one-on-one. You pick a chapter that you really like or want to work on. You don't have to have any experience. You can have loads of experience. I'll give you all the files you need from Reverie. We just got a bunch from Lost in Memories. And you have full access to the editing file. Go crazy with your edits and you will be credited on the video when it comes out. So once your video is ready to go, I approve it. We work on edits together. Your video will be put on Reverie and the original will be taken down. So yeah, that's that for the editors and audio editors. And then lastly, for any of our artists, musicians, we are going to open a Google file or a Google Doc. If you want to give Reverie your artwork to use on videos, that includes chapters 1 of Arc 5 all the way to 42. If you have any ReZero fan art that you've made yourself or music that you would like included, feel free to put it in that Google Doc when I make it. And you can have your work featured in our videos as well. And any future ones as well. So if you have stuff for the rest of Arc 5, Arc 6, you can send it in that way. I'll make a file and keep track of it. You'll leave your credits in the Google file alongside the art or music that you've produced. You'll also have to check and verify yes, this is my own original work. I do give Studio Reverie the ability to use it for the chapter that I've decided. Blah, 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 all that good fun stuff. So that way we open a lot up to the community to try lots of fun things. And we have a really open time frame. There's no big stuff. And the mod applications, the editing support, and just take your hand at editing in general for Studio Reverie, as well as the art and music applications will be open for good. So you can apply at any time. There will be no deadline. Oh my god, thank you for listening to all this ranting. Fuck, that took so long. All right, I'm gonna go to the washroom, and then we're gonna get started with the rest of the chapters.
Yay, exciting news and announcements.
Yay! I'm sorry it took so long.
I zoned out for 10 minutes. What's happening?
You just went for it. That was really good.
We're begging.
And now you are hosted by the Wolfie Boy.
Chest of take a break speaking. Put in a lot of effort. Oh, good. That was a lot of necessary information.
Oh god, that was a powerful stretch.
Oh. Speaking of powerful stretch, my god.
Anyways, who's gonna be voicing or narrating the next chapter?
I volunteered to grab the last two since they're so long.
Thank you.
We'll get Palizad
we'll
on
wait
that then.
for everybody to be.
Oh, I've not voiced Subaru in ages. This is wacky.
I know, right? I know. I can't believe Arc 8 is out. Oh my god. it's so
Oh my god,
crazy.
no, you're making me feel old by saying that, don't.
I know, I'm like, what the hell? I'm looking
Let's
at
be
Arc
real.
8 right
It's
now.
Arc 7.5.
I haven't read Arc 7 yet. I'm actually really excited.
Me neither.
I haven't read Arc 6 yet.
You should get on it.
Bro, I'm watching One Piece, man. That
Oh,
takes up
okay.
all
Same-
of the.
you know what?
Yeah, like
Fair enough.
I
You get a
am
pass.
far into it too. Like I'm like 600 something episodes
Oh
in.
my
like,
god. Are you enjoying it? How's it going?
oh, it's peak. It's amazing.
I've never delved into One Piece. I'm too scared. I feel like it's going
It
to
is.
consume too much of my
It is
time.
wonderful.
Yeah,
There is an arc where they fight the CIA,
it's true.
and it's
You do
it's the best arc.
that.
Any One Piece enjoyers in the chat, you know which arc I'm talking about.
Yeah, 1,060 something chapters right now. I couldn't even imagine, like, I couldn't even make a fanfic in my head about what's happening in Arc 7 or 8 at this point. I'm just like, I just hear stuff and I'm like, that doesn't sound real.
Yeah, whenever like a random thing will pop up on Twitter, and I'll be like, "Damn, that's a spoiler," but also, "Damn, that's really interesting."
Yeah, like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I have so much disconnected bits of information; it doesn't make any sense.
It really doesn't.
But I'm really excited to read it. Actually, I just need...
Exactly. I'm excited to just read it, you know?
It's just
Like,
it's one of
I
those
think-
things where at the moment I found Arc 7 because I read like 10 or 15 chapters of it, like when it was first coming out, and I just couldn't keep up with it. I wanted to wait till it was an entire binge.
Well, the translations were really bad at one point. I was just like, I'm not going to read it. It's not
And
bad.
There was a huge problem with the entire crew at Witch Cult were struggling to keep up with everything, and then Heretic was like passing them up with every single step of it, and they ended up, I think they merged about halfway through.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got about 56 chapters in, but because it was the top of my Reddit
Wait, how
feed,
many chapters are there?
for Arc 7, I think there's 110.
Oh my god,
Jesus.
what the...
What?
I've heard it is a big boy arc.
I mean,
And-
I guess we should be thankful that he's making content still, but holy
And
moly.
if he's making Arc 8, Arc 7 Part 2, it probably means we'll be getting more arcs than we were originally going to
Yeah.
get. So
Yes, that has been confirmed already, that it is going
Oh.
to have at least one additional one.
It's the George R. R. Martin.
yeah, this is the one thing I worry about. Is going to literally consume 20 years of Tepei's life at this point.
Isekai One Piece, pretty much.
I know.
I would not blame the
majority
man
of
if
it-
he gets bored.
The majority of it will make a much shorter anime than it would as actual content on it.
Yeah,
because
that's
it's
true.
very hard to describe some of the things that are going on because it's like all. I won't go into spoilers for anyone listening since this is an Arc 1 stream, but there's a lot of things that are harder to describe than they are to show that could be done in an instant.
Just draw the thing.
Exactly.
I'm very glad that we're getting a season 3. I was actually worried for quite a while that we wouldn't get any more
Yeah,
anime.
me too, honestly. I was like, well, maybe it'll be one of those things where, you know, just from fate, you know, the anime production studio just went off and did their own thing, or they're too burnt out with this one thing.
Yeah, because it's the real tragedy of a lot of productions, and I'm really happy we're getting a season 3. I think ReZero deserves, especially over the next couple years when it eventually gets finished as a story.
Because I mean, I think also in retrospect, people will be looking at, like, as more arcs get animated, people will in retrospect appreciate it more with all the criticisms that were happening.
Yeah.
At the beginning of Arc Season 2, and it kind of made people be like, "Oh."
I think once Arc 6 gets animated, people are really gonna be like, okay, I get why people say this is a masterpiece. I think that's the point where people are gonna start.
exactly. And people are going to be able to like appreciate all the characters that were introduced in Season 1 and stuff, and all the world building and stuff.
Because
Like, even Arc 5.
If Arc 5
Not
is bad animation, I'm gonna be
this is
disappointed.
this is the thing.
Like that's like Arc 5 is just like, okay, we're gonna show pretty animation for a bit, cool fight, yeah, that's pretty much it.
But the part in the beginning is nice too. I like the Arc 5, all these people just talking, hanging out, you know.
But
I could see people getting like really bored of that. I could
people
see
might
that
be
being
like,
like
"Oh,
the
I like these
first like
characters."
2-3 episodes, and they just get bored. It's like, come on,
What are you
come on,
doing?
get going.
Eh,
What are you doing?
there are a lot of people that are just like, you get a lot of specific kind of people that enjoy anime where there's no subtlety. They either like one or the other kind of thing. Where it's like, I must really enjoy this kind of very battle focused sort of show or story, and the other person that just doesn't completely want the slice of life stuff. You know, but I'm a man who enjoys both. Give me both.
See, if you're gonna show me a fight, at the very least, have like really pretty animation, and if not, just like have some like cool, memorable moments that resonate with me on an emotional level. Like, come on.
Yeah, well,
Those are like the things I need. I don't need both. I just need one.
This is the big thing for me with a lot of stories. If I'm not invested in what's going on, why do I care if these people are about to die in a fight? Do you know what I mean? Like, it is.
It also helps if I really like the characters.
Yeah, it's very essential that if you're gonna write a story with a lot of fighting and like conflict, you need to have good characters, because otherwise it does not work. But I'm really excited to see season 3 come out whenever it does come out. I'll be following it very closely. I'm really excited to see the ReZero community get excited again for the anime, and everyone get a bit more passionate and just spread the love, you know, get some more people into the show, you know,
when it's
get everyone
releasing.
to enjoy it. No.
If it follows
People can make an
the
estimate,
time frame of pre-COVID season 2 production, which also had its announcement at the exact same convention in almost the exact same manner as season 3's announcement was, then it'll be July of next year.
Okay.
Ayo,
So
let's
a year,
go.
pretty much.
About, yeah.
We could crank out shit in a year.
Oh, hell yeah.
I hope.
There's
Yeah,
also
I think
still
so.
no confirmation on whether this is arc 5 and 6 or just 5. If it's 5 and 6, and how many episodes it would be, or
True.
anything related to that.
I'm because of the art revealed at the event. I do find it very likely they'll just do some split core shenanigans. I think they probably will adapt arc 6 as well. That's just my opinion, obviously.
Maybe.
People's fears on it are also based on the Western and American idea of what a season is, when in Japan it's more of a concept of, we have gotten the contract to create this much of the story. I mean, just look at Attack on Titan. That's gone on for, what, 4 years now?
True.
Since
Like the
that
last season.
Yeah, it was announced that they got the contract for. So even if they are doing 5 and 6 in the same quote-unquote season,
not
it does
like
not
you're
mean
missing
that it would be
much.
different than if they had done it at 2 separate times. It just means that they don't need to contract it out a second time. Our word for season is closer to their word for core, or closer to core. But
Yeah.
It's not necessarily 1-to-1.
So I'm pretty hopeful. A lot of people have been quite negative and very concerned. I can understand where they're coming from, but, you know, until I see something to warrant me being negative, I'm going to be positive and be excited.
Yay.
They just don't want to be disappointed.
Friends. Now that we're
Hello.
all back, are we
Hello,
ready
friend.
for the chapter?
I love
Yes,
reading
I
ReZero
am.
chapters. Yes.
Alright, let's go. Alright, we have Connor as our narrator. Connor as in Palazard Connor.
Yeah, don't worry about
Gold. And Gold, you're Puck. I'm Amelia. We got Subaru. I can also be what's her name? Plum. And the mom. And Trezzy, do you want to be Appa Man? I think he comes up here.
The apple dude.
Apple
He's like,
dude.
in
"Hey, yo,
6.
my kid is missing.
Hey,
Get out of here. You don't got money.
you're broke, kid.
Use a broke ass bitch boy. Get out before I steal your shoes."
You match the characters so effortlessly.
Honestly, that's not a bad roam.
Oh, true. Okay, cast. That's it. Here, now.
I see you got them Nike kicks on. Those are mine now. Get out of here.
We're doing some bartering.
Alrighty, I'm switching the music over. Everybody, if you want to follow along, I think I have the right chapter up there. Everyone else here has chapter 4? Chapter 5?
5.
Chapter 5. I may have to run it at one point to the oven, and I will return quickly, so, cover for me if I'm gone, Wolfie boy.
Okay, Arby Amelia.
That's pretty good, that's pretty good.
No, it wasn't.
Just do like the deepest voice ever for Amelia.
Hello, Subaru.
Hello, Subaru. I am Amelia.
Hi.
I am.
have a voice like a silver bell.
My voice is very high pitched and very awesome.
Alright, Connor, when you're ready, get us started.
Alright. ReZero, Arc 1, Chapter 5. Your name. His first friendly interaction in this world. About 30 minutes after he offered to help her in that heartwarming exchange.
What exactly is this?
Their investigation had led nowhere. The girl's eyes were cold as she asked this, her dissatisfied gaze directed at Subaru, who had just discovered something, namely...
That cold gaze is actually kind of exciting. Oh, wait, no, it can't be. I was an M all along.
M is a masochist.
I don't know about this M or whatever, but it's clear to me you're talking complete nonsense.
Making no effort to hide her exasperation, she crossed her arms and sighed. Her criticism was scathing, but it was probably appropriate considering what Subaru had managed to accomplish over these past 30 minutes. Subaru himself had offered to help her search for her missing item, but there were a number of problems that made their search extremely difficult. To begin with, he had no idea where he was. As far as that was concerned, it couldn't really be helped, considering he was just summoned from another world, but it was a major hurdle considering the girl was also unfamiliar with the area. They had both assumed the other person knew the way, and ended up wasting almost 10 minutes wandering around back alleys. A funny story to tell at this point, but they couldn't really laugh at it. Secondly, he couldn't read their language. He'd neglected this, since conversation wasn't a problem, but upon examining his surroundings again, he noticed what seemed to be handwritten hieroglyphics all over the place. He didn't realize this at first, but considering they were even written on signs and the like, unless mystic runes had become all the rage around here, they were probably this world's alphabet. As a result, he couldn't really differentiate shops by their signs, and couldn't rely on signposts to navigate either. In summary, the typical cliche of, why do they speak and write the same language? Had only delivered on the former, it seemed. But if one considered that he'd probably be dead in some ditch if he didn't at least have that, it could be said that this situation wasn't that bad.
Even if that were the case, this explosion in difficulty is absurd.
Far from the kind of story where the hero comes in with unbeatable cheats, it was more like he didn't have the minimum level of preparation. And, most importantly, the crucial problem that had earned the girl's ire.
You've just been hiding behind me this entire time. You haven't been helpful in the slightest.
I mean, it's kind of scary talking to people you've just met.
You're not some kid.
Her well-shaped eyebrows scowled as though she was having a headache, and she spoke in a rather pitying voice. Just as Subaru feared, the hurdle of obtaining information from strangers proved to be too much for him. His communication ability had dropped precipitously over the past year. He merely clung to her silently, like a shy boy following his mother. He certainly wanted to say something in response to her disappointment, but his cowardliness ran deep, and the words wouldn't come out. Thus, the cat on her shoulder, who had been silent thus far, started waving his tail, and...
Relax. At least he has no ill intent.
That's even worse. It'd be easier to believe he's sabotaging me. Honestly. To be so utterly useless with good intentions, it's honestly harder to deal with than the anonymity.
Sure is enlightening, huh?
The cat's uncaring attitude made the girl sigh, and though he looked at the street yet again and continued.
But even so, this really is tough.
A small complaint left her mouth. Having moved from the alley they were in earlier, and even from the street connecting to it, they were now far from the hustle and bustle of civilization as they entered the slums. Though discouraged, they continued their investigation and ultimately ended up here.
They said that stolen goods were usually handled in the slums.
We know the location and the culprit's appearance, so why not leave the rest of the police? I mean the guards? We'd find it right away if we had a lot of people working on it.
A shopkeeper about 2 streets away had told them about a narrow alley connecting to the slums. It was true the sun was going down, but despite it being right next to the street, the place was gloomy for reasons other than the light source. The depressing atmosphere and foul smell caused Subaru's face to scrunch up reflexively.
The atmosphere, mood, and probably even the inhabitants' personalities are all bad. It'd be best to call someone.
No way.
He wasn't merely nervous or afraid. He'd suggested this after carefully considering his ability and the girl's safety, but he was turned down on the spot. Subaru was bewildered by this declaration, and the girl seemed somewhat apologetic.
I'm sorry, but that's no good. I don't think the guards will come running over a little theft like this. And also, I can't rely on them due to personal circumstances.
Sealing her lips, she looked at him as if to say,
I can't say why, though.
As if to say, I can't say why though, having understood, she probably didn't want to be questioned. Subaru raised his hand in compliance. To begin with, he wasn't so boorish as to pry into others' affairs, and getting too involved with others was a pain anyway. If he were interested in interpersonal relationships, he wouldn't have become a shut-in.
Alright. What do we do then?
Even having heard nothing of her circumstances, Subaru asked about her next course of action. Not seeking the reason and deciding whether or not to help, or whether or not to stop helping her, were entirely different matters. He may not have known her circumstances, but he didn't want to be an ingrate. Perhaps sure that Subaru would leave her, the girl's eyebrows rose in surprise at this. The cat started doing a little dance on her shoulder.
I told you, didn't I? Not a hint of ill will.
Fooling around as usual, it seemed terribly cheerful as it pointed at Subaru. However, its expression suddenly became serious.
But you'd better decide carefully. It's almost nightfall, so I won't be able to help you. A few hoodlums wouldn't be a problem, but be careful.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, I'll think about it, but...
Her answer was indecisive, and she seemed to struggle with her response. Subaru suddenly became curious and asked the cat,
What were you just talking about? You can't be around at night?
To put it more precisely, despite my cute looks, I'm actually a spirit, you see. Manifestation alone consumes a great deal of mana, so at night I fully return to my Yoroshiru and focus on building up mana. I'd say on average, a 9 to 5 schedule would be ideal.
A Yorishiro is an object that contains or summons spirits.
9 to 5? You sound like a civil servant! Oh, Spirit's terms of employment are unexpectedly severe.
Unusual terms like spirit or Yorishiro were flying around as though it were natural, but a modern otaku corrupted by games and anime wouldn't have a hard time understanding them. Anyhow, the cat before him, or rather Puck's, contract didn't include a night shift. He didn't look reliable at all, but considering how terrified those thugs in the alley were, setting aside Puck himself, the beings known as spirits, did seem to possess power befitting them. A being who inspired more fear than the girl who could magically create ice. Contrary to his unusually idyllic atmosphere, the true nature might have been that of a man-eater that craved blood.
Thinking of it that way, you're unexpectedly terrifying. Let me just say this. I'm really sinewy, so I probably taste really bad.
I can kind of read your mind to some extent, so you really are a nut, huh?
It felt like he intended to say that in a roundabout fashion, but completely failed to do so. Puck's fluffy forehead then moved in a gesture similar to a frown.
Come to think of it, I don't even know your name. I don't believe we ever introduced ourselves.
Ah, I guess so. Then, let's start with me!
Subaru cleared his throat and then spun on the spot, striking a pose as he thrust his finger into the sky.
My name is Natsuki Subaru. I'm utterly lost and completely broke. Nice to meet you!
Sounds like you're in a real tough spot, huh? Alright then, I'm Puck. Nice to meet you.
Subaru had extended his hand in a gesture of goodwill, and Puck flew right into it. A dynamic handshake with his whole body. From an outsider's perspective, it looked like Subaru was crushing him. Puck was just as fluffy as he was in his giant form. Once he'd had his fill of the sensation, Subaru turned to the girl next to him. Her gaze was sour as she watched the exchange between man and animal.
Why can't you ever set that overly familiar attitude aside for a moment? It's unnecessary.
I was at my wit's end, and I found a thread I could cling to. Damn it! I'm never letting this go. This encounter, my life itself depends on it.
Your determination is completely pointless. Say, do you even remember under what pretense you joined us?
Of course! You're now searching for a person rather than an object, and I'm the only one who knows what they look like. You think I'll let you get rid of me just like that? I'll never leak my secrets.
Although I do recall you murmuring, blonde hair and her teeth. Never mind. And the likes of you as you hid behind me while we questioned people. So, you've leaked quite a bit.
Curse my own foolishness!
He grabbed his head and bent over on the spot. It was like he was playing poker while showing his opponent his hand. Attempting to negotiate like that was simply laughable. Even though she was his first friendly contact in this world, it seemed like she was about to slip away from him, and that made him terribly anxious. Puck smiled wryly as he watched Subaru struggle.
Well, you've both got your own problems to deal with, huh? Let's hear you out later and prioritize the issue at hand. But be that as it may, that's an unusual name. Has a nice ring to it, though.
I guess so. It's not a name you hear around here. Speaking of which, your hair and eye color, and even your clothes are all rather unique. Where are you from?
Well, according to the template, a small nation to the east, probably.
Magical cliche where you could say you were from any other country and most people would simply accept it, since in such magical worlds, international relations were generally very lacking. However,
Lagunica is the easternmost country on our continental map. There's nothing to the east of here.
No way! Seriously? This is as far east as it goes? Then what about the beloved Zimpungu? Oh god.
You have no clue where you are. You're penniless, and you can't talk to others because you're scared? Your future doesn't look very promising in another ways.
the girl seemed restless, and her eyes somewhat worried as she looked at Subaru's panicked state. Despite her attempts to hide it, her extremely helpful nature seemed to be overflowing. His completely helpless state was probably making her very uneasy. Puck watched over them with a smile as they agonized over this. He then started plucking at his whiskers.
Well, just suck it up for now. Right now we should head. I have less than an hour left. Make a decision!
I'll go. I don't intend to let her get away. It'll be too late if she manages to take off somewhere we can't reach.
That was a reply to Puck, then she returned to Subaru.
I'm going to head in now, but the path ahead will be a lot more dangerous when night falls. There will probably be some hoodlums up to no good. And to begin with, this is a place where battle-hardened people live. If it's scary, you can wait here, or follow behind me like you were doing before.
How much of a chicken would I be if I have to decide to stay behind? I'm going! I'll stick right behind you the whole time!
There isn't the option of heading out front, huh? Well, that works for me, too, since I won't have to worry as much.
She'd sighed so many times he'd lost count. Subaru reflected on how he only ever made her expression worsen. Thinking back, he hadn't seen her smile even once. She looked like that when angry, so her smile was probably the cutest thing in the world.
Can a matchbox? No, but a tin can!
What's this all of a sudden?
Strange. No effect. But why? Ah, damn it! Does this world not have tin cans? Is your refrigerator running? No refrigerators either!
This abnormality in his speech and mannerisms, it's not a curse or something of the sort, is it?
No, that was completely voluntary. He put his heart and soul into it too. For an utterly meaningless pursuit.
Perhaps having guessed the reason for Subaru's incredible struggle, Puck explained things relatively favorably. On the other hand, it only resulted in the seed of doubt being planted in the girl to whom it looked like Subaru had suddenly started malfunctioning. Regretting that this terrible puns only worked in his original world, Subaru desperately shook his head. Focusing too hard on what was in front of him and losing sight of the bigger picture, this too was one of his flaws.
What's the difference between snowmen and snowwomen? Ha! Snowballs!
He'd finally found one that didn't rely on modern knowledge, but the girl's reaction wasn't favorable in the slightest. She coldly turned away. Her eyes were on the alley, probably indicating that she wouldn't play along any further. His momentary desire to see her smile had completely backfired.
Are you satisfied, Subaru?
The girl called to Subaru, whose self-hatred was currently maxed out due to his terrible attempt and the equally terrible outcome. The fact that she'd said his name for the first time, and also the idea of a member of the opposite sex using his name so casually, made him just a little nervous.
Yeah! It's totally chill! Completely cool! I feel great! I can win!
Why are you trembling like that? I get that you're scared, but we haven't even entered yet. You really would be better off waiting out here if you're that terrified.
With this misdirected worry, she let out a small sigh and turned her attention away for real. As he watched her walk into the alley, Subaru suddenly realized she did not intend to leave him even if she was successful. By telling him to wait here, she was signaling that she would come back for him upon finding it. In less than the hour they'd known each other, her strange inability to deceive for personal gain had become apparent.
This sucks. I'm so uncool.
Despite having offered to help, he was absolutely useless to her. And on top of that, even making her worry about him, he was far beyond the point of being a deadbeat. Striking his cheeks, he used the pain to force himself to focus and advanced forward. He still had a mountain of complaints. Anyone would be helpless if they were suddenly forced into such a harsh world. He didn't think badly of himself for this. However,
relying on her for absolutely everything would be pathetic. I should at least have her back.
Though dependent, he'd have to stand on his own two legs. But despite having focused, he'd ended up zeroing in on the small stuff.
Come to think of it, there's one more thing.
When he called out from behind her, he saw her glance at him through a gap in her silver hair. Even this sidelong glance was dauntingly attractive, but Subaru managed to get his question out.
So, I've heard your cat's name, but I never caught yours.
This somewhat playful question caused her to look ahead and fall silent for a bit. This caused Subaru to panic, wondering if he'd screwed up. Perhaps her earlier silence was to indicate that she didn't want to tell him her name. His communication disorder that rendered him unable to read others' hearts, much less a woman's. Could it still...
Satella.
Oh?
As he agonized over this, her sudden whisper surprised him. She didn't even turn to look at him, and she repeated without any emotion.
You can call me Satella.
As she gave her name, her attitude suggested that he definitely shouldn't call her that. Subaru had wanted to learn her surname if possible, but couldn't call her name just like that, so he ended up falling silent. For now, he would just refer to her in the second person. A rather pathetic compromise. Behind the scenes of this exchange, Puck muttered from within her hair.
That's in terrible taste.
These words did not reach either of them.
Damn. Alright. You guys ready for the next chapter? Or should we just zoom on in?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Fuck it, we're doing it live.
We're doing it live.
We gotta get through.
I'll be Elsa, I guess. Mommy Guts Lady.
Yeah.
Trezzy.
Just try not to throw up.
You could be Rom. I think he has lines.
I'll be old
There's also
man.
the random poor person that points them in the direction of the building later in as well.
Trezzy, you want to be poor person?
Yeah, I'll just be like, hello, I am poor. You just go in this direction.
I'm trying to think. Is anyone else in this one too?
No, it should only be... Maybe they meet the little girl?
I think they cut that. Rather, it's not in yet.
Yeah, maybe it's on a...
Because they're already in the slums.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, and this is where... Oh no, Rom's talking with them, I believe. He's the owner.
No,
No,
I don't think
okay.
so.
No, he walked, yeah. Nope, just, I think there's 1 or 2 lines from Elsa, and then someone in the slums, but I think that's it.
Okay. And Connor, you don't need a break from narrating?
Just let me sip this Gatorade and I'll be good to go.
Alright. And then Trezzy, next time we can give you another set of narration and definitely wrong.
Alright, let me know when you got the music set and I'll get started.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see where it starts off with. Bum, 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 bum. Alright, let's go!
Arc 1, Chapter 6, The End of the Beginning. Their investigation had them entering the slums, and as usual, they were faced with signs of terrible, or rather contrary to expectations. An unexpected development resulted in Subaru proving useful.
This place is super gentle for some reason. What is this? Could it be that my popular period has suddenly arrived? For the first time since kindergarten?
Subaru had very lovely features as a child, and his hair was long as well, which caused him to be mistaken for a girl rather frequently. On the other hand, he'd ended up like this over 10 years later, so it wasn't really a laughing matter.
Well, this is just a guess, but...
Let's hear it! If there's a scientific... wait, this is a fantasy world. Wouldn't it be magical? If there's a magical basis for this, I want to hear it.
This probably isn't the answer you're hoping for, but it's probably because of your appearance. You're kind of filthy, and you've got traces of blood on you. The people here seem to be struggling too, so they probably find you relatable.
I understand completely! Damn it all!
It now seemed obvious why they were all so friendly. Among them was an old lady who offered him a small dry fruit, saying, "Eat this and live strong." When he nervously tried putting it in his mouth, he felt a slight sweetness under its hard surface. And then a terrible odor violently flowed out. The feeling of his nose being destroyed from the inside caused him to pass out.
Damn it all! I thought she was being considerate, but she poisoned me! That was poison! It's like my whole body is burning. I might seriously end up dying here. Or I might strip and end up dead from a social perspective.
Looks like you've received a boko fruit. It stimulates the mana within you when you eat it, and accelerates healing and stuff. The effect varies by person. For most, it's rather soothing.
Satella put a finger to her lip and went... as she watched Subaru heat up and sweat as he breathed ragged breaths.
It seems to me that your body circulates mana very well. If you overdose, you might die.
Tell me that before I eat it! What do I do?
Yeah, Puck?
Responding to her call, Puck emerged from within her hair. His movements were dull and his earlier liveliness had vanished. Put it simply, he was extremely sleepy. It seemed like he wasn't even listening to most of their conversation. He just rubbed his large eyes as he said,
What? I'm at my limit, you know.
You better fill up before going to bed then. There's a feast for you right here.
As he felt a bit of bite to her words, Subaru realized Puck was now looking at him, his sleepy eyes sparkling like he was looking at a delicacy.
Can I really?
Be gentle!
Despite being a little worried that he was going to be chomped up, Subaru replied playfully. Puck gave a vague response, and then stretched his tiny body on Satella's shoulder.
Oh, alright, let's eat.
Immediately after, Subaru felt whatever had been rampaging around inside of him start to drain out in large quantities.
How?
It was hard to say from where exactly. If he had to say it, it was like being drained out of every pore on his body. Rather uncomfortable.
That was quite the treat.
Puck joined his hands in thanks. Subaru wanted to reply with something along the lines of,
You're more than welcome.
but he suddenly felt a terrible chill throughout his body. The heat had directly transitioned into cold, and no ordinary cold either. He could feel it from his very core. He instinctively grabbed his shoulders, the sight of this causing Satella to glare at Puck in reproach.
Puck.
Sorry. It's been a while, so I couldn't quite control it. But his gait does feel strange. It doesn't seem like it's seen much use, but it pours mana right out. That's why I ended up going a bit too far.
He laughed bashfully as he tapped his head, but to Subaru this was no laughing matter. Yet again, they were unfamiliar words being used, like gate or mana.
Probably something like MP. Oh, and I'm in this state because it's been drained.
His gamer brain once again displayed its ability to immediately grasp such concepts. The problem then was just how important MP was in this world. If MP restores were extremely expensive, it could be said that this was a very troublesome act.
I apologize. We'll talk about this later.
I'm reflecting on my actions. I don't regret it, though. That was delicious.
Puck's attitude resembled that of the protagonist of a certain manga, and Satella hadn't scolded him very severely. Judging by this, it probably wasn't a huge issue. If that were the case, it'd be uncool for him to get hung up on this.
Relax. At least I don't feel like I'm going to burn to death now. More importantly, let's keep pursuing the culprit, whose location was determined thanks to my efforts. Thanks to my hard work, we were able to...
I understand that you're happy to have been useful, but saying it twice really isn't cool.
He'd wanted to change the topic, but ended up sounding like a bragging kid. Satella looked like she regretted raising her opinion of him, and Subaru simply forced a smile. It was about time they decided to go further into the slums.
Sorry, I'm out of time.
Saying this, Puck, who was still on Satella's shoulder, feebly leaned against her neck. His gray coat was tinged with bits of light, lightly wavering as though he could disappear at any moment.
Kinda looks like he's about to die, huh?
It's because I really pushed myself. I use mana to manifest, so it disperses when I disappear. My crystal, please.
Got it. Sorry to push you so hard, Puck. Take it easy.
Satella retrieved a green palm-sized crystal from her bosom. It felt somewhat different from what one would call a gem. As far as Subaru knew, he could only say that it seemed crystalline. Puck walked down Satella's arm to reach the crystal, and then he turned to her as his small body embraced it.
I'm sure you know this, but you mustn't go too far. If the situation looks desperate, use your odd to force me out.
I understand. I'm not a kid. I can handle myself.
I wonder. I can't say I trust my daughter very much in that regard. I'm counting on you, Satella. Subaru.
Puck's smile was full of compassion as he looked away from displeased Satella and toward Subaru. Subaru thought their interactions were very much like that of a parent and child as he watched them. He then struck his chest when he was called to.
Alright! Leave that to me! You can expect great things from my jitter sensor! If my danger alert goes off, we'll retreat immediately!
I don't understand half of what you said, but I'm trusting you. Alright then. Good night, Puck. Take care.
Puck looked at her one last time before he vanished from this world. Just as he said, his form started scattering into particles of light. The sight wouldn't have been possible in Subaru's old world, and it sent shivers through his whole body. Once Puck was gone, Satella started stroking the crystal as if it was terribly precious to her, and then put it back in her chest. Following the typical flow of things, Puck's essence was probably stored in there in an ethereal form.
We're alone now, but you better not try anything strange. I can use magic.
Not knowing what he was thinking, perhaps she thought he was just staring at her breast. In response to her words of caution, Subaru instinctively put his hands up and started shaking his head.
No way! I haven't been alone with a girl since elementary. I couldn't possibly try anything. You've seen my people skills, haven't you?
That's so nonsensical. And yet you also really are convincing. Alright, let's go. But we don't have Puck looking out for us, so we'll have to be more careful.
Perhaps dumbfounded by Subaru, puffing his chest out with pride, Satella tightened her robe and moved ahead of him. She then turned her head towards him without moving from her spot.
I'll be the vanguard, and you'll look out from behind. If something happens, call to me immediately. Don't try to do anything on your own. I don't want to hurt your feelings, but you're weak.
Prefacing it like that. I really can't dislike you.
If she wanted to preserve her cold image, she should have omitted the part before "you're weak" and said it more harshly. It showed her kindness that she just couldn't hide. She really was sweet to the core. Enchantingly so. Satella looked like she wanted to complain as he urged her onward. Their two-member search had begun. Having said that, their task really hadn't changed. Find some inhabitants, describe the culprit's features, and ask if they know anyone like that. Rinse and repeat. Subaru was in charge of this, and he became more and more used to it the more he did it.
Maybe it could be Felt. A tricky little blonde, right?
This useful piece of information came from the 14th man they asked. He was another person Subaru had called to in an overfamiliar fashion, such as,
Yo, brother, how goes it?
He looked at Subaru's dirtied appearance with sympathy, and...
Here you go, Trezzy.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
If it's Felt.
If it's Felt, your lost item's probably in the loot house right now. Stolen goods and are tagged and stored there, and the owners gather them up to sell elsewhere.
What a strange system. What if this owner just ran off with the goods?
He's the owner because they trust that he won't do that. But, well, even if you tell him you had something stolen from you, it's not like he'll return it just like that. You're gonna have to negotiate for it.
Because the theft was on the victim for being so careless, such was the logic of the slums, and he forced it on them with a laugh, despite his favorable attitude. They'd managed to obtain the loot house's location from him, and it seemed like she would very soon be reunited with her stolen item. However, a different problem had manifested. The problem being that they were both totally broke.
He told us to buy it back. But what now? On top of our shortcomings in this regard, this seems like the kind of event where we get overcharged or something.
I'm just retrieving what was stolen from me. Why must I pay to do so, I wonder?
Once the problem had become one of funds, Satella's expression suddenly clouded over. Her spontaneous mutter was certainly correct, but it was also true that their opponent wasn't the sort to be swayed by that. To settle things peacefully, and moreover reliably, it would be best to take the man's advice. Nonetheless...
Does this stolen insignia look expensive? Even if they overcharge us, without knowing the market value, it would be...
It has a small jewel in the middle. I don't know its monetary value either, but it definitely isn't cheap.
A jewel, huh? Oh, that's troublesome.
Any buffoon could immediately recognize it was valuable at a glance. This was the sort of convenient effects jewels had. It didn't look like this world had the technology to create imitations, so it seemed certain that almost everything that appeared to be a jewel would be the real thing. If that were the case, their inherent value would be obvious. He understood that they had nothing to be relieved about, but there was also something else about her statement that bothered him. She said she didn't know how much her insignia was worth. It was certainly possible that it was given to her, but he still felt somewhat uneasy.
Anyway, let's try going there first and then think about it. I might be able to negotiate a decent price depending on how I go about it.
Worst case scenario, Subaru had a method that could prove disastrous for him. His vague wording made Satella frown, but Subaru waved his hand in response to her doubt. They'd walked for about 10 minutes, agonizing over their financial situation and coming up with no solutions. Having arrived at the so-called loot house, the two looked at each other.
It's bigger than we thought, huh?
Subaru.
Shows why they called it that. If everything there is stolen as the name implies, there's really no helping it.
Of course, since they were periodically selling things off, it probably wasn't filled to the brim with loot. Subaru thought this as he looked at the loot house, its appearance not quite fitting its coarse name as it beckoned to them. By Subaru's estimate, it was probably around the size of a convenience store, parking lot included. It only had one floor, but it was large enough to fit 20 cars with ease. Their surroundings had changed too. The various ruins and hovels were nowhere to be seen, and behind the loot house was a giant wall. It was quite literally in the deepest part of the slums.
That tall wall thing?
Probably the capital's border wall. Looks like we came to the very edge without realizing it.
Her statement caused Subaru to idly imagine what a map of the capital might look like. It was probably square-shaped, guarded by these walls on all sides. Within those walls, perhaps in the center or the northmost area, there would be a castle, and far away from there one could find these slums. He felt like it had been 2 or 3 hours since they started their search, so he had an idea as to the capital's size. But then, if he compared it to Japan, which didn't have such clear divisions, its size wasn't really comparable.
Well then, if the rumours are true, then the owner of this place should be in there. But, considering our position, how do we approach this?
I'll be upfront about it. I had something stolen, so return it if it's in there. That sort of thing.
Subaru insisted that this wouldn't work any number of times, but she refused to listen. She was virtuous to her core. She couldn't bring herself to consider using twisted means so easily. But it was precisely because of that, that she was the kind of girl that she stopped to help Subaru, even though it brought her no benefit.
Ah, got it. Then, leave this to me!
There was a high possibility that things would go south, so Subaru reluctantly offered to go himself. His last resort. This was too hasty, so it didn't really feel like a trump card. But it would also be a problem to lose the timing entirely. Subaru wouldn't hesitate when it came to such matters. Meanwhile, Satella seemed puzzled by the suggestion. His newfound confidence made her look at him with suspicion.
Alright, I'm counting on you.
I get that you can't agree just like that. After all, I myself understand that I haven't done anything to win your trust. But I do have an idea, so try to believe in me.
Why are you so surprised?
I mean, this is completely different from the typical pattern, isn't it? Leave it to a good-for-nothing like you who can barely even talk to others. Don't make me laugh! Even a dog would be better. I was prepared to hear something like that!
As if I'd say something so terrible.
His paranoia had offended her. However, she cleared her throat and fixed her amethyst eyes on him.
It's true that you haven't been particularly useful thus far, and you haven't done or said anything to inspire any sort of confidence, but...
What kind of appraisal was that? I can't refute it, though.
But I believe you think things through, and I don't think you're a liar.
He stopped his self-depreciation in its tracks, and then took a breath and continued.
I'll try believing in you. It'd be a great stroke of luck if you actually succeeded.
Instead of that last part, something like, do your best for my sake, would really get me motivated, you know?
I can't be that demanding, but do your best.
A girl who could not lie, in every sense of the phrase. Subaru responded with a broad smile and turned towards the entrance. This definitely wasn't easy on him, but he felt like her expectations and that little bit of trust were giving him the push he needed. If he came back without accomplishing anything, he really would be completely useless. As he walked, Subaru looked at the plastic bag in his hand, which had never once become the topic of conversation thus far. Within it were the items he brought with him from the other world. As far as Subaru were concerned, they were all that he had in this world. He might be able to barter with them. He didn't know how much his insignia was worth, but surely it couldn't be more than his cell phone, which would be the only one of its kind in this world. That would be a great loss for him, but negotiation should be possible if he used them to trade. That was the last resort he'd keep secret from her. Of course, he also had a bunch of cards that would be useless in this world. If he had the chance to use them, he should do so.
Is anyone home?
Standing before the wooden door, he tried knocking on it. The sound was deeper than he expected, but there was no response from within. He hesitantly reached for the handle, and the door readily opened as if there were no lock on it. The interior had no lighting. It was so dark that one could only fumble around. It was supposed to be a place where stolen goods were stored, and yet for some reason, there was no one standing guard.
Maybe they're in the toilet or something. Anybody there?
Subaru poked in his head to look around, but not even the moonlight reached the room, leaving it pitch black. As he was welcomed by stale air and an unpleasant odor, Subaru built up his resolve and took a step forward. But first, he turned to Satella.
If the two of us walk in just like that, we might look like burglars. How about you stay out here?
Are you sure? Perhaps I ought to be the one.
I've already called out a bunch, so I probably won't be cut down just like that. It'd be dangerous if the owner were to misunderstand. So, please leave it to me.
Subaru bowed his head to her as she contemplated this. She then reached into her robe and pulled out a white crystal which he held out toward him.
You should at least have some light. Whether or not someone's there, call out to me.
I understand. Carefully, huh? How do I turn this thing on?
You don't even know how to use Lagmite? You really are ignorant, huh?
She said in a tone that was both amused and surprised as she lightly struck the lagmite against the wall, causing it to produce a pale white glow. It was very dim, barely illuminating a few meters at most, but it would be enough to discern imminent danger.
These days, most people use mana-based light instead. But this is a lot simpler, and I quite like it. If it goes out, just do that again and it'll light up.
I see. Seems pretty convenient. Alright, I'll head in for a bit.
Lagmite in hand, Subaru timidly walked in.
Don't force yourself.
Satella said from behind him, and he responded by raising his hand. When Subaru passed the entrance, a small counter entered his dim field of view. Perhaps this place was originally a tavern or something. On the other side were some broken boxes. One might guess that the owner or someone else had been sitting there. The counter also seemed to play the role of a reception desk, and had various items on it. Small boxes, jars, and all sorts of blades were carelessly strewn about. He was in the dark in both the physical sense and the intellectual sense, so he couldn't hazard a guess as to their worth. But to the untrained eye, they definitely didn't look very valuable.
I suppose it's obvious. The valuables must be further inward.
The stolen items also had wooden tags attached. It seemed like characters had been carved into these with something sharp. According to what the man from before had said, these were probably the names of the thieves who had stolen them. It seemed like they could catch all these guys in one shot if they just gathered these up and handed them over to the guards.
Well, there's also the possibility that they're using fake names. And in a situation like this, there's plotlines where the country has a dark side that's in cahoots with the criminals.
There was also the question of just where these stolen goods were going. He could just skim ahead if this were a novel or manga. Such were his detestable thoughts as he walked further inward. There were still no signs of life, but even with his dim light, he could make out that the goods were increasing in size and value as he went deeper. An insignia with a jewel embedded in it surely would be all the way in the back, then. As he thought this, his footsteps unintentionally quickened, and then... Subaru stopped when he suddenly felt something strange under his shoes. It wasn't the discomfort of stepping on something hard. On the contrary, whatever he had stepped on had some give. It felt like he'd stepped on something sticky. When he raised his leg and felt the sole of his sneaker, he noticed a thick liquid sticking to it. When his finger felt its strange stiffness, he felt a primal fear surge from within.
What is this?
He brought his finger to his nose to smell it, but the stale air prevented him from realizing exactly what it was. Even so, he simply didn't have the courage to bring it to his mouth for a taste. He rubbed it off on a wall and pointed his light forward as if prompted by his unease, as his destination was the source. His voice leaked out when he finally saw it. Under the dim light, what he first saw was an arm sloppily laying on the ground. Its fingers were open as if reaching for something, and strangely, there was nothing above the elbow. He raised his light as if to look for the rest of it, and there he found a leg. Perhaps it was fortunate that the leg was still attached to the torso, and the body had most of the rest of the parts it was supposed to have. With a torn-up neck and a missing arm, what lay before him was the corpse of a large man. Once he realized this, his mouth produced a meaningless noise. What filled his mind right now was not fear, despair, or shock. His mind was overwhelmingly blank. All thought had completely ceased. Even the options to run or stay did not exist in his brain. The blankness simply had him stand stock until his brain fully absorbed the sight before him. This would ultimately decide his fate.
You saw it. I have no choice then. Yes, no choice at all.
A woman's voice, he thought. Low and cold, and somehow enjoying herself, he felt. He didn't even have time to turn around. The instant he decided to turn towards the voice, he was blown away by a colossal impact. His back slammed against the wall, knocking the lagmite out of his hand, which left him in complete darkness. But that wasn't what Subaru was focused on. His entire consciousness was devoted to...
What?
He felt a terrible heat coursing through his entire body.
This is really bad.
He felt the hard floor against his cheek and realized that he had collapsed onto his face. His strength was completely gone, and he had already lost sensation in his fingers. The heat from his core was so excruciating it made him want to tear his throat out.
Hot, 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 hot.
The moment he opened his mouth to scream, what spilled forth was no shriek, it was a clump of blood. He vomited up large quantities of his lifeblood as he coughed. Frothy blood started foaming at the corners of his mouth as he gurgled on it. Within his dim field of view, the ground had been dyed red.
This is all my blood.
There was enough to soak his fallen body. Blood comprises about 8% of the human body, and it is said that losing about a third of it would be life-threatening, but it seemed to him that he'd already lost just about all of it. He'd stopped vomiting blood, but the heat that he felt was still incinerating, still persisted. He moved his hand towards his abdomen with great difficulty, and having felt an impossible sensation there, he understood.
My stomach's been torn open, huh?
It was no wonder he felt so hot. It seemed his brain had confused pain for heat. He was almost torn in half. Only a bit of skin at his back held him together. In short, this was checkmate for him. The moment he realized this, his consciousness started fading. Even the heat which was making him writhe in agony had disappeared. Even the unpleasant feeling of blood and the sensation in his hand he'd used to feel his organs. It was all fading away along with his consciousness. All that was left was his body, which would not be able to accompany his soul. The body used the last of its disappearing consciousness to move just a little. It turned its head upward. Black shoes formed a ripple in the pool of blood before his eyes. There was someone there, and that someone was most likely the one who killed him. Strangely, he didn't feel like looking at their face. The person was the one who took his life, and yet he still decided to simply remain a spectator to his own demise. He had no clue who they were, but right now he really didn't care about that. He only wished for the girl's safety.
Baru?
He felt like he heard a voice like the chime of a bell. He was beyond the point where he could even differentiate his senses, so he'd probably just imagined that. Despite that, even supposing it wasn't real, he found it extremely comforting. So, a short scream and the carpet of blood welcomed yet another person. She had fallen right next to him, exactly where his arm was. Her fair hand dropped powerlessly and intertwined with his.
Probably just a coincidence.
He felt her fingers move slightly, as if squeezing his hand.
Wait.
He forced his disappearing consciousness to return for a moment. The pain and the heat, everything had faded away. It was a meaningless effort, nothing but a loser wasting time. But even so,
I will definitely save you.
at that moment, Natsuki Subaru lost his life.
And that was the end.
Thank you. Yay! You guys did such an amazing job. Everybody did. Connor with the voice.
Man, good thing he did those good deeds earlier, man. You must be going
Incredible.
straight to heaven.
Yeah, straight to heaven.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
the heaven.
Great job, friends. This was a great kickback. I'm gonna record Call of the Witch, just like make our own so we don't get hit with copyright.
It's just
so
like
it's-
you just hear in the background.
Your own version of Call the Witch.
Pachi, everyone, you all did amazing.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
I hunger, so I'm gonna go cut up the pizza I left to cool. You guys could talk for a few minutes.
Okay.
And I'll be right back. That was so awkward of me.
For sure. Throw it over. Well,
So-
Vivi, how did you think of the reading, huh?
It's really cool being on this side of it. It makes me hype. I want to join in next week.
You should.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, so that's the first episode pretty much of ReZero Part 1 and 2, right?
Mhm.
It's pretty interesting being back at the very start of things. I forgot how Amelia put on a sort of hard face exterior in front of Subaru, because we don't see that part of Amelia very often anymore, you know.
It's because she's almost a completely different written character from before the events in the capital and after the events in the capital during Arc 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. I think that's one of the things that is very interesting. How she kind of has like this very intelligent, sophisticated, sort of wry sense of like, oh, I'm important. I have something to be in the world. Where she's doofus, but we saw her, break a couple times when she was talking to Puck. She's like getting worried, like, oh, I don't know what I should do, blah blah blah, you know, all that stuff. But yeah, interesting, right? And Super's dead, and that's the end of the series, right? The joke that everybody can make.
Like the part where he dies.
Yeah.
Oh my
I do
god.
too. It's actually really descriptive and very evocative for like what's going through it.
Yeah.
Unironically.
I mean,
I do really like how his death is described in the
I mean,
earlier chapters.
One of the things that Tepe really does is always make the most out of every single scene and describing it to the even over much sometimes, but at certain points that's nice, especially when you hear it read aloud. I think reading it right becomes like, okay, I understand what you're trying to say. You don't need to restate it 3 times in a row. But
why I hate reading fight scenes in ReZero.
Yeah, fight scenes are especially like that.
Oh yes.
But
he turned his left ankle to the right by 3 inches.
It gets toned down a lot when it gets converted to the light novel.
Moved all of his fingers in a circular motion.
Yeah. But having somebody else read that to you sounds a lot better than having yourself have to read it individually. So you kind of understand the prose and how thorough he's being with evoking certain scenes and kind of painting a picture. He's really good at that. It's one of his biggest strengths.
One thing I really respect about Tepe is that it very much to him, it's the kind of idea that every single death Subaru has is almost sacred, right? You can't make a joke out of it. It has to be serious every time. Because Subaru is going through something that is, 1, very traumatic, and 2, very painful. And Tepe always makes sure to make sure that it's fully understood by the reader that Subaru is not having a good time each time this happens. Mm-hmm. I really appreciate it as well, because I don't know if you guys knew this, but the reason why Subaru doesn't die in the sideshow Isekai Quartet is because Tepe specifically specified he didn't want any comedy to be done around Subaru's death at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, he takes every character's emotions and feelings very seriously. It's something that you kind of notice while reading his things, where it's like, no, he's not going to make light of this one character's circumstance. He's going to make it completely clear to you and have you judge what's going on here. And usually through the story, he kind of makes sure that even the side characters gets all of their fair share, which is something very unique. I think is his desire to be like, no, I introduced this character. That means that I have to make sure that that character is explored and used to the fullest, because they're their own person, and we kind of want to make sure that you realize why Subaru's fighting for like other human beings, because there's a lot of depth in each and every person in the story, which kind of reflects like maybe you should be more considerate to other people, is sort of the message of the story overall, I feel like.
Yeah, it's I really appreciate the aspect of that every single character you come across in some way is a person, and they kind of come off the page and feel very alive in a way which I feel a lot of other characters and a lot of other stories, just as a generalization, don't really reach that level. They can be entertaining or interesting, but most of the characters in ReZero feel so alive and well thought out and so fleshed out. Even some of the side characters that, for a lot of the time in the main story, you don't see like at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of other stories have characters that I really, really like, obviously. But, unique to ReZero in a lot of ways. I'm not saying that they're the only story to do this, but, like, in some stories, it's like, okay, there is characters that you can tell that the author clearly likes more than other people, And you can see that they kind of, say that this character is sort of used for plot reasons, and this character is something that I'm passionate about writing, right? With Tepe, it almost feels like he forced himself to kind of give every character the same sort of equal treatment, which is like a very interesting like philosophy about the way that he writes things, and it makes me wonder like where that's coming from. But you can kind of see it being translated to you throughout the story. Like he really tries to make sure that every character that he puts in the story gets a fulfilling character arc,
have, a purpose over many different arcs, and you can tell he has plans for them and sets up a lot of very interesting things for everybody, which I think is something that like you wouldn't consider usually when making a story. You would it's not necessarily that you are considerate of every single character and making sure that they all feel like they have a sort of epic sense of scale and purpose in the story, but Teppei always tries to elevate his characters, and I think that's very admirable.
Well, he uses a really common writing trick that's especially more common in Western fantasy, especially the stuff that's directly inspired or trying to imitate, like Tolkien and Lord of the Rings, where any character that is actually speaking through dialogue is a written and developed character outside of the story first, and they just are there. They already know who speaking about. Anyone who's not that is usually only referenced in almost passive tense. Like, for example, what Subaru was saying before, it's like, this was the 14th guy we talked to, and he told us this, and he gets one line, not actually any direct dialogue. So it all just goes to that the characters who actually are there are characters, and it's a similar thing to the details going on for all of it, where if it's meant to, it's called rendering the scene for descriptive writing, then he goes really hard into it, sometimes too much, honestly. But otherwise, it just briefly goes by, like super quickly. You don't even notice some of this stuff.
I actually really like the comparison to Tolkien. I've not read through the entire original Lord of the Rings trilogy myself. I read the majority of Fellowship of the Ring, and obviously it was written, quite a while back, so the language use, and obviously Tolkien was a linguist, so the language he uses is very complicated and vast. But I get the feeling even their writing styles are somewhat similar, in the sense of Teppei also writes in this very flowery way. Do you know what I mean?
I do. I actually have a strong suspicion on the reason for that, based on some interviews that the Konosuba author has done with like the Anime Man and some other people online, where he's revealed that he and Teppei used to basically play tabletop RPGs together a lot.
I was gonna say that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's inspired by D&D is like the idea.
If it was D&D, then a lot of the older modules or pre-written adventures, and even still some of the newer ones that are like reinterpretations of older ones, use very Tolkien-esque flowery text when describing scenes and rooms of the dungeon. So if that's where he got his entrance into fantasy, it would make a ton of sense for that to be how he understands to write out the story for all of it.
That's really cool. Thank you for that little tidbit, Palisade. I'm pretty sure the author Konosuba's a woman, right? If I'm remembering correctly.
I don't think so.
No, it's a boy.
It is?
Yes.
It's a guy. Works with a lady who helps with the illustrations.
Okay, that's
Same
what
with
I'm
Oshinoko.
thinking of.
Akatsuki Natsume. Oh no.
Correct. I remember seeing an interview with the Konosuba author, because the Konosuba author talks about sometimes, working on, his friendship with Teppei and stuff.
Supposedly, they did either a drinking game or like rock, paper, scissors at a bar one night, deciding who was going to write parody and who was going to write serious.
I can only imagine how Teppei would write a comedy one.
He did a collaboration novel with a load of other authors where they did the Hitchhiker's Guide to Isekai, or whatever it's called, and he has his own written section, which is basically just him, a self-insert of him getting isekai'd, and it is absolutely hilarious. He makes reference to every isekai under the sun, including ReZero in the first couple paragraphs, and it's really funny.
He has a strong work ethic, that guy.
He does. Again, perhaps too much.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, how do you put out that much?
Have you read some of his author's notes when he posts the new chapters online at all?
I've never been able to, no.
He mentions that, I was terribly sick with something horrible I ate yesterday, spent the whole day on the toilet, so I cranked out this chapter all night because of that.
Oh my god!
Wow.
Or I only wanted to write one, but I got so excited from what was happening that I just wrote 2 more chapters. So you're gonna get one every day this week.
Tapei is just such a wonderful human being. Just like anything he says is so interesting. He's definitely one of those people where you just listen to any of his stories that he says. I don't know. Maybe that's just a bit flowery and weird, but he's definitely a very fun person.
Yeah, he is. And he also, you tell that he's really sacrificed a lot of himself to kind of put all this out there, but he really passionately cares about it, so it's good.
It's good that he still cares after all this time. God bless.
How do you manage to do that over a decade? You know, it's pretty crazy.
I couldn't do it. But yeah, coming back to the Tolkien comparison for a little bit, I'm pretty sure the word count for the ReZero web novel is actually longer than the word count for the Lord of the Rings trilogy now, isn't it? Which is saying something considering they are hefty tomes.
Yeah, both of them are right now, yeah, for sure.
It's a hard comparison to make because they are going to have a bunch of characters in hiragana and katakana in the original web novel.
Yeah.
But in...
Goodbye, Trezzy.
Bye, Trezzy.
Bye-bye.
But I very much get the unique feel from these two works, and even though I don't love it as much, Mushoku Tensei, where I tend to find that they're like almost sagas, right? They're like epic fantasy sagas, these stories.
Yeah.
And that's what really draws me to them. They're not... There's something that feels different about them. Do you know what I mean? Compared to the rest of...
Yeah, because a lot of structural stories nowadays don't really go through the same sort of mindset about what they're writing, you know? It's not like sectioned into parts, or it's not like here is one phase of the story onto the next phase of the story. You know, it's very like the story is going to be finished when it's going to be finished. I'm telling it from point one to point, or you know, the 3-act structure is something that happens often. But you know, like these stories don't really have that. You know, it's not like we can delineate things very properly about like the acts of ReZero so far. More so, there's almost like a microcosm of its own story inside every single arc, you know, which I think is, you know, a very interesting way of writing it.
Yeah, I tend to find with these sort of stories that they catch my interest just a little bit more. I don't know if you guys have experienced this story before, but Vinland Saga has the same feel for me, where it's that kind of story that, because it's so focused on the character development of specific characters around the main character, but also the main character, and it like tells their entire story, it really draws me in, because it fleshes out the main character so much that they're just wholeheartedly a person you watch like grow up and change and exist.
Well, you know, I think what's interesting about these stories, right, like Vinland Saga and ReZero, what I feel like they're related to is the fact that thematically, or sort of narratively, they're very generative. You know, they're very like, here is people growing all the time, you know. Even though there's hardship and trials in realism in every single thing that happens in these stories, you can tell that the author very passionately is trying to evoke in the readers a sense of, you know, like trying to overcome pain and hardship and hurdles, but, you know, not looking away from it, but striving to be better despite it, you know. I think that's something that I really appreciate about the story.
Absolutely. I can't speak to Vinland Saga. It wasn't my cup of tea for the first season.
And that's totally fair, honestly. It's the same thing with, like, again, any story, like, even for ReZero for me. If you don't enjoy it, you don't enjoy it. And that's perfectly okay. I don't think... The good thing is that there should never be a story for everyone. Because if you try to make a story for everyone, you're going to please no one, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think, you know, people are allowed to enjoy what they enjoy. And honestly, Vinland Saga in particular is one of those stories where you're either going to love it or you're just not going to get into it at all.
I'm surprised Subaru hasn't referenced Vinland Saga in any of the works yet. Like, we already got, a both a Dragon Ball and a Naruto reference in just what we read today.
That is true. It's... To be fair, there are so many references in ReZero, I tend to, like, miss a couple of them. It's one of those things where some of them I'm not even too sure if they are. Do you know what I mean? Like, because throughout the entire story, Subaru makes so many references to so many different properties. I think he makes a couple... Is it One Piece references in Arc 5? I can't remember, but...
Yeah, he does.
He does at least one reference to Shenron from Dragon Ball. References One Piece a couple of times in that. And I think he makes another one to The Detective Is Already Dead.
Oh, okay.
It's more pointed out when he does it in the light novels, because they are also slightly more localized than any of the web novel translations are going to be.
That's true.
So it will make more of a point of, like, instead of here in 6, where it was made me feel like the character of a very specific manga, I think it is made me feel like a popular orange jumpsuit wearing manga character. To make it a little bit more clear what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Or the one before that when he's doing Piccolo's hype man speech from the Frieza arc. It goes in a little bit longer. I feel great. I can win. I can do this.
I do find it is quite funny as well that like, because we talked about this a bit earlier about how much Teppei is in Subaru. I like that Teppei kind of, like, from his enjoyment of other media and stories, just kind of puts that into Subaru and really plays it up in the whole point of him being in a world where no one understands his references, and it gets to the point where they just called it Subaru speak, like it's Subaru's own language of things that just they don't understand, and Beatrice is the only one who begins to comprehend it. She calls them Subaru-isms. Yes, Subaru-isms, that's the one. I really find them entertaining. It adds so much character to Subaru, and the reactions of the characters around him is always entertaining.
It is, for sure. And Teppei almost assuredly writes some of his self into Subaru. It'd be impossible to write, as I just looked up, 3 times the length of Lord of the Rings trilogy in the current light novel. And not have yourself be part of the character. But technically, his self-insert is meant to be Puck. The one that's constantly, sleeping in her chest, hiding in her hair, and is his alternate name of Grey Cat-san.
Yeah, because that's also his, like, author name on the web novel platform, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is just...
It's his daughter, okay.
Yeah. You know... I mean... When you get to the point where you're writing characters like this, they literally are like his own mental creations, right? So...
Hey, you get super possessive over characters after you spend enough time with them. I'm honestly surprised that he's actually still able to torture Subaru. He must have someone in mind that he is dealing this damage to.
Well,
either like a specific person he's interacted with, or the general concept of the otaku fan that he just really wants to punish.
I'm pretty sure he is a butcher by trade. So I think that's what a lot of his inspiration comes from, that sort of stuff. I imagine for him it's also one of those things where Subaru is like it's a necessary evil, right? Subaru has to progress and this has to happen for the story to go forward. But I imagine he's kind of like numbed himself to it at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Because you cannot write as violent a deaths as happen in this story and like feel that emotional about it and be able to continue, because man would be actually like traumatized by this point.
Yeah, it's give it some more time to catch up on the web novel, Wolf, and you'll see just he's gotten very good at it.
I'm gonna be reading the web novel with everybody fresh with Arc 7, so I'm excited for that as well, because it's gonna be like I'm gonna be narrating and I'm gonna do this, or maybe doing characters, who knows, and then I'm gonna be like experiencing it for the first time. So it's
honestly, I might have to save that. It very much depends on the timeline of things. But
it's a long read. I think one of the chapters that I read just last week was longer than everything that we read today.
Yeah, there's I've heard some of the longest chapters in the series are in Arc 7, right?
Mm-hmm. And some of them are so long they actually split up into 2 different parts. He just calls 50A and 50B.
That's like contending with Arc 4 level of chapters. My God.
I think it passed up Arc 4 by chapter 90 in how long it was.
Oh wow.
You do not know how good that power that you have is. Blah 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 blah. That chapter.
Oh, that one's fair. That one may have been longer. It's a ride. I'll tell you that much. There's actually a couple little bits of foreshadowing in the web novel that we read today towards it. Tiny stuff that's inconsequential, but it's there.
There is an unreal amount of foreshadowing that Topay has put in the story. He has planned it out. It's one of those things where he's definitely planned out all of the general plot points, but he fills in the middle with all of the personality.
It's more than foreshadowing; it's 5 shadowing.
Yeah, it's 5D foreshadowing.
Well, then this will blow your mind, but the entirety, or not the entirety, 90% of what we've gotten from Arc 7 thus far was not planned. Like, it's entirely new content that he's modified the story around.
I mean, hey, he's writing a new place entirely, so,
Exactly. He just fell in love with writing the area and wanted to stick with it for a long time.
I mean, that's the D&D DM in him,
Yeah, pretty much.
Don't slap Subaru.
Exactly.
Friends, this was a super fun first stream back, but we realized the time and we desperately need to walk our dog.
Yeah, we've been doing this for a long while.
Hello, Willow. Yeah, thank you all so much for coming out today. We'll wrap it up with stream. I'm gonna briefly wrap up with you guys, and then yeah, we'll have a great day. But we'll see everyone back here next week, same time, same place. And I'll have it written in the Discord. I'll schedule the live stream at some point today. We'll have different voice actors, probably maybe more of the same. We might have more, might have less. And it's so good to be back. Yeah, hopefully the music was okay. I'm gonna try to figure out the audio stream levels. Maybe get someone to take over the music as well next week. But yeah, otherwise, thank you everyone so much for being here. To our viewers, thank you all so much for coming back to us. We love having you here. I'll have a video out in the next day or two on the all the stuff that's going to be available for our community and more experiences to come. And thank you everyone who showed up today. I really appreciate you. Connor, Gold, Vivi, Kiki, and Trezzy, and then everyone else who couldn't make it but made it into our chat. It's so good to see ya.
Thank you, everyone. It's nice seeing you all again.
Thank you, and we're back, bitches!
We're back, baby!
We're back,
Yay!
baby!
Suck it, YouTube! Alright, love you all, have a great day!
Have a wonderful day,
Thank you all for tuning in.
Bye!
Thank you all for tuning in.
Bye bye.